Stop that. Stop that. Stop that. I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the walking. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls let it tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution. Cold like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the sheets. We came for war, motherfucker, get my peace. You take the west, I'll take on the east. I'ma put him in the cage, never let out the. Yeah, I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys. Man so tough, but mans keep walking, yeah. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls, let it tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch me, please use caution. Stop that. Stop that. Stop that.
Executive producer Chris Cody, what would you start with today? Have you given consideration to the idea that you're running a show today that is made and built for America? You don't know what the shadow show is, even though you're supposed to be governing that, and everyone seems to be confused about what it is that I want from that. How would you start the show today? Would you start the show today with Deshaun Elliott calling the Dolphins soft?
No, I would start it with Caitlin Clark being one of us.
Oh.
And if she can shank a golf shot, anyone can shank a golf shot. She's playing.
I thought you meant she also didn't like the shadow show.
She doesn't know what it is for sure. But she was at some Pro-Am tournament, and she's got a gallery full of people around her, and she shanks one. She hits a low dart right in the crowd, and then the scary thing is she re-tees.
Yeah.
She takes a ball and goes right back to the tee, and you can see the gallery. Like, oh, my God, she's going again to start to move back.
No, there was no part of her that did the, oh, my God, I'm sorry. She's just like, damn, all right, let's go back at it again. It really hammers home all those points they were trying to make in that Pablo Torre finds out about. Maybe she's wired a little differently. You know what I mean?
I don't know why.
Wait,
you said
I don't know
that
what you
way.
mean. I was about to say
what does that
this was an LPGA Pro-Am that she played 9 holes with Nelly Korda, who's like the best golfer in the world. So this is the shot. We're showing it right now.
Thousands of people around her.
So many people. She was signing autographs for, like, I was going to say hours, but it probably wasn't hours. It wasn't like Dan at the Vegas show. It was slightly less time than that, but there was a ton of people there to watch her.
Oh, my
Yeah,
God. she
that's
almost killed
dangerous.
somebody.
I've
And look, right back into the pocket.
Yeah, she's like, oh, my bad. Not even a my bad.
Not even my bad.
There wasn't even like
Not even my
you're supposed
bad.
to raise your hand like, sorry, right?
I almost killed Placido Polanco shooting a shot just like that.
Placido?
That's a
Yeah.
sentence.
Yeah. He was playing golf with Chris Whittingham and I. We got paired together, and then in the back nine, he just dipped after almost getting one in the temple.
One of these days, I want to go to these Tahoe trips. I just want to see it. I don't want to.
No, this was actually in Miccosukee.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I'd like to go on one of them too, but right now they're just golf outings for Mike and Stugotz to spend a lovely time in Tahoe. I think we'd all like to go on those. Chris, when you're saying she is all of us, are you simply saying that in that instance, because you're not in that instant, I feel like all of us would have done something similar, which is you are now basking in the shame of everyone's watching you and you are an embarrassing failure at what you've done. You don't embrace that. You don't apologize. You just give me another shot so I can correct this. Give me another shot. I'm going to stare down at the tee and I'm going to just line it up again because I'm so ashamed. All of you are watching and I just did something terrible in front of you.
To her credit, she piped the second one. So with that pressure, it didn't get to her. That might have been a breakfast ball for all we know. Was that the first hole?
It's got to be a breakfast ball.
But she choked.
Love a BB.
She choked, right?
I mean, look.
Look at Dan.
I'm a decent golfer. I have felt the first Tahoe shot I ever hit. I'm not used to a gallery, so even though Caitlin is used to this, it's just that when you're hitting you're used to swinging alone, and all of a sudden there's 1,000 people watching.
When
you.
Sue and I take our exclusive golf trip, that is not at all to make content, and no invites are invited to anybody else in the show. And I step over that hole on 17. Oh, my hands are shaking. Thankfully, I'm 2 for 2, and I haven't killed anybody.
Nice.
Ray Romano almost killed
Ray
Chris.
Romano hit me really close to my midsection.
Wow. You got contact.
Yeah,
It,
you know,
it
yeah,
like
sure.
hit my inner thigh.
We did a whole thing for weeks on it. Ray Romano joined us. They talked about how they're extended family. Ray Romano drilled, and I don't know why Chris Cody said my midsection. He almost hit him right in the balls.
Right.
Like,
I was trying to avoid that word.
Midsection's like not near the balls.
Your stomach, no.
Crotch is what I should have said.
but you said almost hit it,
Groin.
like what you
Balls.
did.
Groin.
You could have just said balls.
Yeah,
Breathing
you
suit
put us so
area.
Nuts.
further away from what we were doing.
Testicles.
But if
I
you-
was picturing like a kidney shot
Bollocks.
or like a stomach, like internal bleeding because it hit you in the stomach.
He hit me in my upper inner thigh.
Made it seem like a kidney punch.
Grapefruits.
Midsection. I feel like I'm not too super wrong.
It's
on
a
this.
lower body injury if it hits
Just
you in the
kinda wrong.
balls. Midsection's an upper body injury.
Huevos.
All right, let's analyze this for a second now, because if we're doing midsection, he's technically right, because midsection is under the nipples to the knees. That's
Really?
That's
Thank
the,
you,
well,
Dan.
that-
But why is he hedging? Why is he being careful? He
I
knows
don't wanna-
exactly where he got hit.
I didn't want to say balls.
Yeah.
okay, but what you ended up.
There it is. You wanted it, and you got
I
it.
didn't. I didn't want it. No, I
You shouldn't be
shot.
saying. You shouldn't be saying that.
Look,
word.
Look, that's where it hit me.
I didn't want it. It's a strike zone, midsection. The problem with what you did is you were so afraid in today's America of saying the wrong thing, and I think that's the way we should be going. I think you should just run from all the Rogan boys. Just run screaming and scared because you can't say balls anymore. Because that's how down the middle Chris becomes a lefty.
Wait, are we the liberal Joe Rogan?
Wow.
Chris Cody.
We were the liberal Joe Rogan the whole time. Every time I saw that tweet, I'm like, we've been that.
That's right. But now Joe Rogan's people are throwing rocks at us, and Chris has to run scared and makes it the midsection and makes it so geographically confusing that now no one knows where he was almost hit when the funniest place that he could have been hit is where he was hit.
Hoo-ha.
Hoo-ha is a good one.
Technically, he is correct, I guess. It was your midsection, but it was not really a great descriptive word considering where it actually hit you.
I hear midsection and I think you got hit in the abs. That's what I think.
That's exactly.
That when I think midsection, because I'm being literal here and I'm doing strike zone, when I do midsection, it's nothing under the hips. But technically, if we're doing the body in thirds, the midsection has to go from knees to nipples. That's almost, although you guys saw what Giannis did last night to celebrate his three-point shot. Did you see
I
this?
did not see this.
Okay, Sam Cassell did once upon a time the testicle dance. Giannis is a child, and he was more overt, and so he just did a long swinging penis by putting his elbow at his waistline like he's got a giant penis.
As midsection.
Right, and
I think it meant.
Dan, I think what you just uncovered is a new segment called Loopholes. Right? Like what he did was hit the loophole because if you don't know, the big ball dance that Dan is referring to that Sam Cassell used to do was popularized by the movie Major League. Pedro Serrano, right? Was running around the bases and he was kind of juggling two large invisible testicles as he rounded the bases.
Didn't Eddie House also get fined for that?
Eddie House was the one I think was the straw that broke the camel's back.
Like, we'll allow Sam Cassell to do it.
But once Eddie started doing it, then it was a problem. So this dance has now been banned by the NBA. You do it, it's an automatic fine. So what Giannis did is he said, okay, you said no shirt, no shoes, no service. Nobody said anything about pants. I'm walking in pantsless. You said no ball dance. Hey, I never gestured balls or showed balls. All I did was point my arm low to the ground and let it swing back and forth. Hey, maybe it's just my hand is dead.
I mean, the detail that actually gets him out of trouble was he did 3 fingers at the end of the tip.
Yeah.
So it just looks like a 3-point celebration, but he's definitely mimicking a giant penis.
Yes, he is, because he's kind of pointing at it as it swings back and forth. He's
Well, it's
pretty
dangling.
proud.
It's got inertia to it.
I'm with Amin. His hand could be asleep. And he's just trying to get the blood back into it. So he's just like,
You ever do that, Dan? Ever have your hand fall asleep and you just kind of shake it
Shake
between
it?
your
did you
legs?
just say the blood black into it? Is that what you said?
Oh.
You know, he didn't.
That is
no one
pretty
heard
sure
that other
that's-
than you.
I'm pretty sure that's what he said.
Joe Rogan heard it.
The video that I want to keep showing people is not just the Sam Cassell dance, but I also want to find the Eddie House dance, because the Eddie House dance is where the balls dance went to die. But I feel like Giannis crossed the line, and it's not because I'm being sensitive. There's a lack of subtlety in this There's a lack of subtlety in this celebration that makes it not offensive to me as a cultural purist. Offensive to me because it's a lame celebration. It doesn't have the subtlety I need to have a wiggling noodle as opposed to balls, as opposed to the more subtle dance that Cassell got fined for.
We are not liberal Joe Rogan because we didn't lead with aliens. Yeah. We led with Caitlin Clark.
Who's an alien?
The new Netflix documentary, is that what you're talking about?
No, I'm talking about what happened in Washington, D.C. yesterday, where a government official said we collected non-human biologics from a crash site, and a military person said, we're not alone. We're just not. There are other living beings in this universe, and we have to come to grips with that. But yesterday was a big news dump, so it kind of got lost in the shuffle.
Let's say that was the big news out of Washington yesterday. Huh?
This is exactly what the government wants. You guys talk about other cabinet members. Meanwhile, we collected alien DNA.
And so we're not going to do top cop Matt Gaetz resigning from Congress and evidently to avoid ethics committee report that will make top cop, or would have made top cop, the guy who was allegedly trafficking in young people over state lines. Like, we're not going to talk about any of that, right?
No, we're not.
To do that would make us the liberal Joe Rogan. Right?
No, I think we should stop talking politics and stick to sports.
Well, I was saying before of Caitlin Clark, when it is that Chris was talking about just shame and embarrassment, I told Amin before the show that I missed him yesterday because the thing that happened at the end of the Miami Heat Pistons game that triggered a lot of arguing around here, and I don't think that Billy is wrong when he says people should have perspective. If you lose Game 10 of an NBA regular season, it shouldn't haunt you for the rest of your life. And the reason I know that I missed Amin yesterday is because I'm just certain that he agrees with me, having lived in the furnace facility that is competitive basketball, that it's going to be very hard to find a coaching mistake any of us have ever seen in that sport as embarrassing, shocking, and haunting as that one, where you're the buzzer beater mistake, where the coach makes the buzzer beater mistake that just ends the game because you're stewing in your own shame and in the middle of the court. And Spo, I've never seen him look like he lacked confidence more, shrinking inside himself as like tail between his legs to the sidelines because he realized what he had done. I mean, he realized that he had cost them the game before anybody else realized he had cost them the game.
I've seen Spo in many a post-game press conference, including playoffs and the NBA Finals. I've never seen him look that devastated. And what it is exactly what you're describing. It's a lot of times you lose a game, you're like, well, the game wasn't lost on that play. We could have done this better, we could have done that better. But he knows. There's no other place to point the finger. You pointed out yesterday. It's not that he didn't know that they didn't have any timeouts. He just, from the moment they're in that huddle, talk about, hey, remember, we don't have any timeouts, to what happened on that play that made him so furious that it was almost like a knee-jerk reaction. Like in the cartoons back in the day, they hit you with the hammer on your knee, and then you just kick. That's exactly what he did. Bull happened on the court, like, ah!
Yeah, instinctually call the timeout because that's what I do. He messed up, but it wasn't, I know this is hard to believe. In his mind, I think his mistake was, damn it, Terry's still in. He's going to screw this up. Damn it, it happened. No, Terry, timeout. And then instinctually, he called the timeout that he didn't have, but the mess up was, like, personnel-wise, he didn't get it right.
You know what's funny? They could have taken a delay a game. Like he could have just walked out onto the court and they would have called delay a game because you get one warning before they hit you with the automatic. But again,
can you make a sub after a delay a game though? Because that would be an unfair advantage.
No, I don't think you can.
Yeah, I'm sure the competition committee was like, someone's going to exploit this.
Well, they had 6 people on the floor, so it was up to him. It's not actually a sub. It's like, oh, no, that guy's supposed to go.
That's how you do it.
Yeah, man. You got to do it's a game within the game, Dan. It's a game called loopholes. Giannis won that game the other night. Spo lost the loophole game.
Your thoughts beyond that, though, because the part about this that was so interesting to me, having watched this building across the street is a military complex. It's like it feels like a military facility. What Pat Riley's basketball military facility across the street, where if you were to walk in there, it would be a bunch of people walking around from science lab to science lab to get into better shape because they got the cult over there that builds whatever it is that they build that wins basketball games. To watch at the end of that game somebody who came through the video department and is now one of the 5 people who runs that multi-billion-dollar organization. To watch in real time someone who learned with Stan Van Gundy and Pat Riley how to be a crazy person about winning. To watch him sink into, I'm a control freak who knows he controls only about 10% of what's happening once I give the basketball away. I'm a control freak. When I'm at maximum rage, what am I going to do? Time out, the power comes right to me. He was so enraged by everything that had happened there that he grabbed his maximum control freak at a time where they were, had to be shouting from the sidelines, hey, you don't have any timeouts left. You've just you've lost your mind because you wanted control again. And the way you do it for 17 years is by stomping out on the court and saying, game's mine now, everybody get over here. And you did it at the impossibly wrong time.
Yeah. I mean,
I want to try again to beat liberal Joe Rogan. Infowars has been purchased at auction by The Onion.
No way.
Yeah, I thought The Onion was making an article about this, but apparently it's so. I'm only the true liberal Joe Rogan if I actually got that wrong and I have to be corrected by a producer 5 minutes later.
Can you guys get me the video, please? Because that was funny yesterday watching that go viral, where evidently Alex Jones is sitting in the middle of an awful apocalypse of his own making that sort of foretold everything that's happened in America since, that person, through what he was doing, could deny things like school shootings. To have him in the middle of what used to be his empire that birthed this nonsense that's happening in America right now, that went viral because he was watching auctioneers wander around his facility, putting tags on what had value because he owes so much money for his conspiracy theory doing that has fried the brain of America. Like, that's what was going viral yesterday, was him sitting in the middle of what was an Infowars empire, watching auctioneers go around and put tags on the things in his studio that had value. And you're telling me that The Onion has now purchased that facility and all things Infowars?
That's Secretary of the Interior, Alex Jones, so just watch what you say.
Watch your mouth.
I don't even know if you're playing or if you're real right now, Jess. That's the scary part.
Right?
I don't know. I'm sorry. I know we said we were going to talk politics. The Secretary of Defense one is the one that blew my mind. He got a news host. Look,
that's the one that blew my
Honestly,
mind.
that one doesn't even register anymore.
Honestly, that one does blow my mind. I'll tell you why. Here's why. Because I can hear people say, oh, that Matt Gaetz thing, that's a conspiracy. He never did any of that. That's just the liberal media. I can hear them say that. What I cannot hear is any actual explanation that a TV host should be the Secretary of Defense, should be in charge of generals and armies and the Pentagon. I cannot, that's the part. Is there not a line for them over there, there across the aisle, to say, hey, hold on, what the are we doing?
I think we're long past that point.
But they won. They got it all. You have it all, right? No, you have it all. It's yours.
Is it about
do with
aliens
it what you please, but not that.
You guys just want to ignore. We collected DNA that was non-human. Who cares?
Right.
And I don't think they meant a parrot was at this crash site, okay? There was a crash site.
I mean...
Whoa. There was non-human DNA in this crash site that we collected, and you're over here talking about shanked golf shots and attorney generals. None of that matters. We are not alone.
What form of DNA do you think it was?
Green person.
Not what kind of... No, I'm saying what type of DNA from the green person was it? Because when I hear DNA at a crime scene,
Are you
I think one thing and one thing only.
Are you suggesting that this is...
Yes, that's what he's suggesting.
I mean, What voice was that earlier that you just did?
A Bane, not a good Bane though.
That was a Bane?
Yeah, do it as you please.
I thought it was pretty good.
I tried.
I thought it was Sean Connery.
Oh, wow.
Did you know that Christopher Nolan says the sequence that he's most proudest of in his career is the opening sequence of Dark Knight Rises?
I believe it. Man, that's a great sequence.
They expect one of us in the wreckage, brother.
She's such a better Bane than
I
you.
know.
Yeah.
I didn't say I was good at it.
How dare you go in front of her Bane with that Bane, though? That's the Master Bane.
She's got
Master
a
Baner.
She's got a different Bane though. Like,
a better Bane.
well,
the
but
best
it's,
Bane.
it's also different. It's not just regular Bane. It's Bane with a.
You
with
keep
an edge.
crafting your bad Bane character.
Okay.
Keep working on
Bad
it.
Baney.
None of us knew why it is that he bad Baney.
I mean, but seriously, like, what about the bomb exploding in Oppenheimer? I think that's more of a cinematic achievement.
You think Bad Baney was bad? I got whispered in my ear. Won't give away who said it. Desmond Bane.
What is this, Bane Capital?
Jeremy said
We're
that to me,
keep talking
too.
about Bane.
As if we couldn't tell who told you. As if we all couldn't point at the Pop-Tart
I don't
and know
snitch.
Wait, who told you?
who the bad pun came from.
But the open of that movie was so good that I remember where I was. Like, I remember what seat of the theater I was in when I watched The Dark Knight
Hot
Rises.
take. Not even the best opening sequence of Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy.
The Dark Knight opener is
Yeah.
great.
It's
What,
so
where he
good.
robs the bank?
Oh, my God.
Spectacular.
Is Glenn Powell in that scene?
I think he is, yes.
God, he's hot.
Was he People's Sexiest Man or is it John Krasinski?
John Krasinski.
John
I
Krasinski.
thought I saw that Glenn Powell was People's Sex, and then
No
a day
shot.
later.
Liberal Joe Rogan says it's Benny Blanco. He read that somewhere.
The internet not happy about Krasinski. They're like, what is this, 2014? That's what the internet's saying.
okay,
We're still efforting for that video, by the way.
I am here though. Wait a minute. That was Alex Jones. Wait a minute. I am
all
here.
I got is limited.
No, but I know. But don't run away from me yet because I want you to craft two impersonations for me because it's not even Alex Jones that I want you to perfect. The one I'd like for you to perfect is the internet.
Ooh.
You speaking as the character, the internet, is what it is that I want. I want that character to burst to life and just be swelling, covered in boils, and just be an acid pit of here is the sound of the
What does
internet.
the internet sound like? Does it sound like a Russian Alex Jones?
I've given you guys the voice of the internet for years. It's whiny. It's, oh my God. That's the internet. What are you talking about?
See, the problem is I went straight from internet into Alex Jones, so I already forgot how I did the internet. I got to go back and like listen to it. Oh, I'm the internet. Was it something like that?
No, that's a means. That's the same.
That's
Dan,
Chad GPT, I think.
okay, this is from the New York Times, Dan, to give some context. It says The Onion said the bid was sanctioned by the families of the victims of the mass shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary School, who in 2022 won a $1.4 billion defamation lawsuit against Mr. Jones and his company, Free Speech Systems. Every Town for Gun Safety, a nonprofit dedicated to ending gun violence that was founded in the aftermath of the Sandy Hook shooting, will advertise on a relaunched version of the site under The Onion.
You know what? They missed a great opportunity. They should have bought it anonymously and kept running it as if it's still Infowars, but just infiltrate it with more and more ridiculous stories just to see how far people will believe what
I
they
was
say.
going to say that Amin is a classic critic, hater, second guesser because he immediately gets information that is indisputably clever about the darkest of humor. The idea that the Onion would be able to purchase with the sanctioning of the families, because in the search of helping the families, would purchase this this joke of a thing that changed the way that the American news coverage happens because people were believing in conspiracies. The idea that it would happen in real life and that Amin would say you could have used that power to then turn Infowars into something else by working in the shadows and not telling people you were the Onion, that's even funnier somehow.
That Infowars just overnight becomes satirical, and it takes several months to be able to tell. I don't think that that's the height of dark comedy. I think the height of dark comedy is just giving that information while a Pop-Tart sits next to her.
I was hoping that at some point today he would have some very serious commentary while dressed as a Pop-Tart.
Oh, don't you worry. I can do that whenever you want, Dan.
Yes, I know you can. I do know that you can. Do we want to talk at all about the Deshaun Elliott story?
Yes.
Because
Oh my God, Dan, the Steelers have safeties that are talking. They have wide receivers that are acting weird. We got a pass rush. We have a run game. The Steelers are so back.
Your enthusiasm is fun because you've got a deep passing game. Your offense is no longer constipated. The Steelers actually, people have been questioning how good the Steelers are for a few years, but because of the improvements they've made recently that include a coach making a really ballsy quarterback change, people are thinking the Steelers are more for real because they have deep ball possibilities in Pickens than they have been. And I'm inclined to put down some of my doubt just because maybe Tomlin can get a little something out of Russell Wilson. But the Deshaun, this story, though, you never see this story, correct? Where all of a sudden, all over the locker room in Dolphin Land, reporters are spread out asking everybody, every single person in the facility, are you soft? People who do that for a living, wandering around, talking to the Dolphins, asking them, are you soft? And I thought that Javon Holland had the best response, which is just like, it's just empty noise until you've named names. Go ahead and say that Javon Holland is soft, and go ahead and put names on it. Otherwise, you're just a guy yapping to get attention.
The reason that this is a story is because he's accusing them of something that everyone has accused them of. Like, this has been thought of as a softer defense. So it's like, if he had called them bad tippers, I don't think that this would have been a news story. It would have just been like, oh, they're probably not bad tippers. He's probably just – but he said exactly the thing that they are criticized for being. So it's definitely going to be something that they're asked about. Barry Jackson was just touching his nipples when that sound got heard.
The part that I'm objecting to is –
Besides that?
Yes, beyond the Barry Jackson touching his nipples, is – who among us is calling anybody in that sport soft? Like, what are we doing?
Well,
what are we doing?
Yeah, I would never do that.
On a spectrum.
I would never
right?
see Blaine Gabbert flinching in the pocket and say he's soft. Never me. Nope.
An entire team, calling an entire team soft that you're no longer on in
Just
that sport.
Defense.
Look, we can talk about how they're built for
He
finesse.
trusted Alec Ingold.
We could talk about them being built for finesse. We can also talk about them being fast. I thought we were all of the understanding that when you go fast, you're going to give up size. You're going to give up physical. The way that they play football is not to out-tough the next guy. You guys really believe that out-toughing is often a thing in the NFL?
Yes, out-physicaling, 1,000%. The Ravens, the Steelers, they're more physical.
Not out-physicaling where you have, not out.
Isn't that like a synonym?
No, you're making them synonyms. I am not. When you say someone's soft, it's not because they're too weak-minded to actually conquer you with their strength. It's because they're physically not strong enough. When you're getting manhandled, when everyone in the league is getting manhandled by the Lions' offensive line or on the tush-push, the Eagles' offensive line, it's because Lane Johnson is stronger than everyone in the league. Not tougher, physically stronger than every single person who's across from him, and so was Kelsey.
Okay, I guess if you peel back the layers and you get down in the nitty-gritty, I get what you're coming from. And he did say mentally soft, which is a distinction. But I think that you can – look, Miami's a team that's built for speed and finesse, and they made off-season choices that only leaned more into that. So I think that you can certainly deduce that there are teams that are physically tougher than the Miami Dolphins.
Is he doing a cold weather thing?
Maybe.
Perhaps.
I believe that cold weather people are tougher. I believe that.
Well, then we all agree with him.
Rust Belt.
That's what they want.
Wow, all right. We might be liberal Joe Rogan.
Put it on the poll, please, at Le Batard Show. Are cold weather people tougher? Yes, I don't think of can I say this about Miamians? Do I think of Miamians as tough?
We are not tough.
I am not tough, and my father came down here particularly because he's not tough. In fact, my father said, why would I ever want to die a hero? I'd rather live as a coward.
There are tougher. There are people that are tougher in South Florida in certain sections. I'm saying generally in Kendall, not the toughest.
I feel like this is a confidence that comes just for playing for Mike Tomlin and the Steelers. You go to Mike Tomlin and the Steelers, you just instantly feel tougher than everybody else. He's looking around, and the uniforms we wear, the way our fans wave those towels, we're tougher than you.
All right.
That team's soft. Mike McDaniel, too quirky.
Let's examine this for a second, because Kendall is the hood, according to Alex Rodriguez. Alex Rodriguez.
He did grow up in the hood with me.
In Kendall.
We both grew up in the hood.
I want to talk about this for a second, because the examination of a sports entity and us thinking, those people seem mentally not tough. Those people who are doing that thing for a living that is pretty difficult. I find it pretty consistently exasperating that any of us would do that. But when a person who has lived in that world comes out of the locker room and gives voice to it, even if people don't know who this person is, all of a sudden it becomes, oh, this is a way to talk about the Dolphins. This is interesting. Let's run through the locker room rubbing our nipples and ask every single Dolphin, hey, you guys aren't tough, right? This guy said you guys aren't tough. When they're halfway through a season that breaks all of those bodies, like all of them are limping through that facility, and that's the question they're being asked midweek because we need the content.
Tua literally said at a press conference, I don't care. I love it to the death of me.
That's right. His brain, that's right. The guy with the brain problem in the middle of that is saying, yep, I'm in the middle of this, and I'm giving my brain to the cause, and you think I'm not tough.
Dan, I think when we're talking about this, we have to clarify. Like Chris said, it's a spectrum. Like to us, of course, it's like when NBA players say, "Oh yeah, how many points have you scored in the NBA?" Like, well, you're not comparing to me. If you were, you wouldn't be in the league either. The comparison is against your peers, and so these are peers talking amongst each other. It's like if Steph Curry told Klay Thompson, "You're not that good of a shooter." To Steph Curry, he's not. To the rest of us, obviously, he's way better than anyone we've ever seen in our lives. So when they say this, when Elliott says this, he's saying it within the like you can't say those guys are walking around hurt and stuff. Of course he knows that his team's doing the same thing.
All right, let me play the sound for the audience so we can hear this in his own words.
So this will be fun. This will be very fun. I haven't been able to play against Baltimore the way I wanted to because last year I played up for a team that was soft. I mean, oh my God, I can't put that on there. That was pretty soft. The guys on the team. But there were some guys who were tough, but like for the majority of the team, there was not mentally tough individuals. So to be on a team with a full team of mentally tough guys going against another mentally tough team and AFC North ball, it's gonna be fun, man.
I have told this story a couple of times, and I will tell it again just because we're all in agreement, right, that Ricky Williams as a football player was pretty tough, yes?
Yeah.
So Ricky,
some would say mentally wasn't tough. He couldn't do it.
He did quit on his team.
Right. Okay. So the reason I asked the question is because the image of him gets distorted. I always thought that he was too gentle a spirit to exist in that world, but he, had more rushing yards than anyone in the history of running a football in college and then get to the pros, and Ditka trades all his draft picks for him. He's walking through the Raven locker room, and he's saying, with Ed Reed and Ray Lewis in the room, I feel like a rabbit among wolves, that those two people are not built in any way the way that I am built, but Ricky Williams was tough enough to carry a ball 400 times a season in that sport and, go looking for Roy Williams in your secondary because he wanted to bully him. He was tough enough to do that. And so I ask you, why do you think that you can hit a football team with so many different personalities with an allegation like they're soft at football?
I'm a little confused because I think even Ricky Williams, while we all admit is tough, he's admitting that there are degrees of toughness.
Mm-hmm. Agreed, but that's a team locker room right there. That is what happens.
I don't doubt that the Dolphins are tougher than us, but I don't think that they're tougher than the Steelers.
Dan, I'm pretty sure Terry Rozier was the best basketball player in middle school that he ever played against, probably in high school. In college, he was really good. And then you get to the pros and you're like, oh, there are a lot of people who are good like this, right? Like Zachary Researche of the Atlanta Hawks said this the other day. He said, in Europe, I was the most athletic guy, and here I'm just a dude. And so perhaps when it comes to Ricky Williams, yes, he's tough in high school. Yes, he's tough, the toughest in college. But you get to the pros and you see Ray Lewis, you see Ed Reed, like, I'm not tough like that. Not like that. I'm tough. I'm not tough like that.
So you tell me who we could look at in the NFL because you guys are doing a different thing that I'm willing to do.
What's that?
I'm not looking at the Philadelphia Eagles when they're physically mauling everybody on both sides of the front of the ball. I'm not looking at that and saying they're tougher than everybody. I'm looking at it and saying they've got a number of physical gifts that work together that are physically stronger than everybody. I think there is a ceiling on tough on people who play those positions. They say of defensive linemen, for example. They say of offensive linemen, they're the guys who can put your refrigerator together. The defensive linemen are the ones who would tear it apart with their teeth. Everyone
They say that?
Everyone there is tough. Yes, like that. The defense, the thing that is said in that sport in terms of the difference between the two positions is one has a mentality that tears things apart. The other has a mentality that puts things together.
Who builds refrigerators?
And this is a thing they say.
Frigidaire.
The offensive linemen build refrigerators. You and I should know that. We love fridges.
William the Fridge Perry. Dan, Mike McDaniel's response was also very funny. He said, I just worry about this year's team. He said it on a podcast. Cool podcast.
This is
Cool
manna.
podcast.
This is manna from heaven for Coach McDaniel. This is you know who they're playing
This
next?
is chum to throw into the locker
The
room.
Raiders. And the Raiders, historically, tough. You know, the autumn wind. It's a pirate, Dan.
It's man from heaven is what it is. Man, I'm going to out-tough you. It's not man up front. It's not – so you guys just –
There are tougher players in the league, dude. Like, I don't know what to tell you. I think I look at James Harrison, I look at Willie Williams, I say, yeah, James Harrison, tougher. Now, you may argue, well, he's bigger and stronger, and I will say, good point. That's what makes him tougher, Dan.
I would argue that nobody listening to this would argue that the Chiefs won the Super Bowl for the reasons that had to do with toughness.
That was a tough defense.
Chris Jones would like a word.
Yeah, Chris Jones, tough.
Yeah, really.
Pacheco.
Physically strong, unbelievably strong.
I mean,
Yeah,
if we're
well, I
just
don't
doing
know
a
that-
weather thing,
Pacheco's tough. Wait, there are bigger running backs than
Pacheco's
Isaiah
a hard
Pacheco.
runner.
And no one really in the league can replicate his running style right now. He's unique. So how do you explain that? That's not just a physical attribute, Dan. He's not bigger and stronger than everybody else at the position. He's tougher.
I'm still doing a weather thing here. I think that the Chiefs won because they were mentally tougher when it was negative 30 degrees in Kansas City.
They were mentally tougher on that blocked field goal last weekend. They were mentally tougher.
You don't.
You're moving the goalpost here, Dan. Like it's just like you mentioned
I'm not
the Chiefs.
moving the
We give you
goalposts.
examples of guys that are tough.
No, yeah, thank you. You gave me examples of guys in football who are tough.
Yeah, Pacheco. Yeah,
I mean,
like
I
you
can't
want to go.
believe, how did you possibly come up with examples in football of guys who are tough?
I don't know what you're doing. You're saying they're not tougher, they're bigger and stronger. Okay, agree to disagree. I think that makes you tougher.
What I am saying is let's go ahead and do it. Let's do this right now. Let's go through the recent champions, and you give me the champions that you think won because they were tougher. Like, you give me where that was.
Philadelphia Eagles, a quarterback by Nick Foles. They were tougher. And that was a really tough team that they went up against. But in the trenches, they were physically tougher and dominant. And I think toughness is an attribute that you can assign to them.
And you know why they were tougher? Because Nick Foles had an arm that was hanging between his legs that he pointed to with 3 fingers on it.
I don't know how you make the distinction tougher when I'm like, and that's the best offensive line I've ever seen.
That's right. It's time for Thursday Thunder, and it's brought to you by DraftKings. Stay tuned because you'll hear all about DraftKings and all it has to offer throughout the show. DraftKings, the crown is yours. Mike, what do we got?
Bolt me.
Good timing. Good timing. You surprised him.
Usually the bolt comes after the pick.
No, but this is the second time I've asked for a bolt.
He needed the top production.
I'll bolt the out of you.
We are in a contract year. You should get your timing right. These sponsored segments are important.
Yeah, no cursing. Don't do that during a sponsored segment.
DraftKings is our sugar daddy. Can we please do this better?
Bolt me. 3-leg parlay. It'll pay out at plus 472, but we're going cross sport, and you're going to have to be a little patient with this one because it won't fully pay off until the weekend. Here we go. First leg. We looked at Thursday Night Football. We got a good one. Commies taking over Pennsylvania. Second week in a row that's happened. All right. We got the Commanders. We got the Philadelphia Eagles. And I think Saquon Barkley's going to score a touchdown. Anytime touchdown score. First leg.
He's been pretty important for them, right? Like if we were to say transactions, trades, best in football in the offseason, Saquon's been the most important one, correct?
Hard-hitting analysis from Dan Le Batard.
He's tougher than everybody else.
Sometimes. And actually, that was your take. You said there's like a handful of guys, Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb, Saquon Barkley, they appear tougher. This is weird. Your takes are coming back to haunt you. Tonight in the NHL, late one, 10-10 start. I love this bet. This is one of the more routine bets that I have in hockey. Quinn Hughes assist over. Love that guy. Sniper. And also, to close out our parlay, there's a big fight this weekend. There's a couple big fights this weekend.
Yeah.
We're going to the Jake Paul-Mike Tyson fight, and we are going with Jake Paul by KO/TKO/DQ at plus 150 to close out our 3-leg parlay. That is Thursday Thunder.
I've never criticized Thursday Thunder before. That's a trash third leg.
You're a Tyson guy?
Yes.
Have you seen, we've talked a lot about Alex Jones, and you're all familiar with the internet meme of like the before and after where it's the same picture.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what's happening with Mike Tyson training camp photos, in which Mike Tyson, wow, what a transformation. And all he's done is pull his trunks up. All he's done is to pull his trunks up above his belly button, and everyone's like, man, that guy's in
That
crazy
works,
good shape.
though. If I did that to you if I did that right now, I think I would look in better shape than you guys think I am. If I were to just pull up my pants to a certain point.
This is why millennials were crying when Gen Z brought back the low-rise pant again, Dan, because the high-waisted trend has been the best thing that's ever happened to anyone.
I wonder if Kenny Mayne might want to, at the end of this segment, see if he and I do a belly off here to see who it is can pull up their pants to the place that makes it look like they are more buff than they actually are. Kenny Mayne is going to join us right now. He is, I believe to be, and I say this, with the most profound respect, the single worst contestant in the history of Dancing with the Stars. The single worst that there's ever been. However, I do really and genuinely admire his bravery in doing that, and I think it takes a really great sense of humor to be someone brave enough to do that when you know that you cannot dance. So, Kenny, thank you for being on with us. I want to talk about your documentary in a second, but it was both brave and awful to see you on Dancing with the Stars.
That's the worst introduction I've ever had, not just on this show, but really any show. I was not the worst even that season. Master P was worse than I just didn't have any kind of following. And so I got voted off, and Bruno, the judge, hated me. I was doing things that were so subtle and nuanced, they wouldn't be understood for decades. And we haven't even reached that time point yet. But I tried. Plus, they paid money. I did it for the money. I didn't give a damn about the dancing.
I want to talk to you about your documentary. You pride yourself on being strange. I would say that in the history of sports media, very few people have ever made the content that you have made. What? Why
are you killing the guy? The first two things you've said to him are the worst things ever.
I think he would think. Yes, I would think that you would view strange as a compliment. No?
I mean, strange is derogatory. You could have said quirky, ironic, like throw some other terms like whatever. We're friends. I thought you liked me. So far, you've insulted me twice on the gate, but I'm here. I'll take the punches. I got a wiffle ball. I got a bat. I got a piece of Griffey art back here that's in the movie that's for sale to help my foundation called Run Freely to support veterans. So yeah, I'll fire away. I'm ready. Let's go. Meet the press.
Kenny, you're well aware, I think, that you carved out a lane in this industry making eccentric content that no one else was making. That's
a much better framing.
There you go.
But you know what I meant. You know what I meant. Like, how would I not? Your entire career is built on I'm going to take a path no one else is taking.
Dan, your intro was like this delightful weirdo, Kenny Mayne.
Yeah. Here comes a freak show. He's now a senior citizen playing golf a lot. All those things are true. They tried to get rid of me after like 2 months, though, because I wasn't conforming. But I battled. I found a couple allies. Vince Doria, I know you love him. He stayed with me and kept me. And it, I stayed around a while. But it was fun while it lasted.
I want to get to the wiffle ball documentary that makes all of that awkward introduction. I'm explaining that you make choices that other people don't make. If you're going to pour your life into making a documentary, most people might say wiffle ball would not be the way to go, that this is not the choice of an easy documentary to make. So why is it that we should be supporting this choice that Kenny Mayne is making when he can choose anything in the world to tell a story about?
Because you're so fond of me and our relationship is so strong, you just believe in whatever I believe in next. That would be my short statement to that. No, it's a thing that happened when I was at Channel 11 in Seattle, Tacoma, way back when. I think I'd been on TV for a year and a half. Somehow I talked Harold Reynolds and Ken Griffey into coming to the Seattle Center and doing a dumb little story. It was terrible. My interviews were horrible. But in the course of doing that, we somehow decided to throw wiffle balls on a speed pitch at the Science Center. And I've had the tape for 35 years. I ran into Griffey a couple years ago in Seattle at the Sports Award Show, and he brought it up. He says, yeah, I was going to mention you, but I didn't want to bring up that stupid wiffle ball thing. And in that moment, I was like, I'm going to tell the story of what happened that one day in August of 1989 when he was a rookie. I was 28 or 29. And I've been contending for all these years that I beat him by 1 mile per hour. And I wanted to go back and find the truth. Was I right? Was I wrong? And it's the journey of discovery. There he is, 19 years old, throwing the ball. Also a terrible, it wasn't calibrated. Their little speed gun, look at that. That's got to be 110 miles per hour. And it got me at like 50. But I found the truth eventually through this journey that took all of 5 shooting days.
Okay, so 5 shooting days. You poured your heart into this documentary. It is on Fubo, 8 p.m. Eastern tonight. Ken Griffey Jr., Mayne was saying right before you came on, remember when it was a giant national controversy that Ken Griffey Jr. used to wear his baseball cap backward?
That was pretty stupid. Yeah, there were people that had a problem with that. They also had a problem that Marshawn Lynch had tattoos and didn't like to talk to the media. But yeah, people are stupid.
Sorry to interrupt the interview. It's going great. I love this whole conversation. But Dan, you said the documentary airs on Fubo. That is a clothing line. Fubo is where the
I'm
documentary
sorry.
airs.
That's my bad.
That's fine.
That's a totally different
Love that
thing.
dude on Shark Tank, though.
It's a great disseminator of sports content. It's also available through Roku and their other platforms. Fubo, 8 p.m. Eastern, wiffle ball. It's 30 minutes. We need this movie right now in America. We need this escape. Gretchen and I have shut off cable news. We're watching like the Today Show where they're talking about hot trends in Christmas wrapping paper. We're just down that lane right now. And this movie is escapism. Ken Burns is in it, the noted documentarian. We have the wiffle ball headquarters president is in it. We have a UW professor. You got old footage. You got new footage. There's music from the head and the heart. Pearl Jam helped us out. This kid named Sam LaChow, a rapper in Seattle, helped out. And am I shouting? I feel like I'm shouting.
No.
Far away.
I just love your lane as self-conscious TV guy. It's something that's delighted me for 30 years. Like, am I shouting? It's supposed to be an inner thought.
And I wasn't the worst dancer. I was one of the worst dancers, but not the worst. You could ask Master P and his followers. They just voted him in because he's Master P and he's successful and he's a rapper. Nobody knew the hell I was. I just took the money. They said, you want to be on Dancing with the Stars? I thought I was going to dance with a star. And it's like, no, you're the star. And I ruined that poor girl's career that never had her back either.
Oh, no.
I said, yeah, they never had her back once. Andrea, I said, why don't we do something really simple? You know, just keep me in the box ready. No, we're going to be ambitious. And I was like chasing her around the room and throwing off moves. And oh, well, that's over now. That was so long ago. The Seahawks were playing Pittsburgh Steelers in the Super Bowl that year.
I want to talk to you about some sports things, including this Tyson-Jake Paul
I want to talk
fight.
about my goddamn movie that's on Fubo, not Fubu.
Yeah, I'm going to wear that one for a while. Yeah, I'm going to wear that one for a while. Yeah, that one hurts. We'll get back to your movie in a second because I think wiffle ball should be the new national pastime. But because I've admired how it is that you have made content for a long time, you're cleverly disguised as a jester, but I've always thought because of your sensibilities, you watch everything in sports with a wink, but I've also thought you're one of the smartest guys doing it. And so I wanted to ask you from that context what it is that you do make of what's happening in America right now as you hide in your bunker there and watch, Christmas decoration shows.
I'll have a statement to make soon after the inauguration. No, I was surprised, disappointed. I hope they do less damage than I expect. But anyway, Fubo tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern is where you're going to see wiffle ball. And yeah, go team, go America.
Not only on Fubo, but also on Rockaware. Oh, no, excuse me, Roku.
Thank you. You're like you got a real-time fact checker right there.
I need it.
Which
America
Super Bowl did you
one.
mean? The Steelers did you mean the Steelers and the Cardinals Super Bowl?
Steelers, Seahawks in Detroit.
Oh,
Stevie played before.
The bus's last stop. That Super Bowl.
Randall
Oh,
was
that
one
was
of
a
the
good
nicest
one.
passes you'll ever see.
Yeah, we dropped like 7 balls. There were a couple bad calls.
Oh, the refs were so bad.
Yeah, it was an ugly game, but I got to interview Stevie Wonder. So, and by the way, I was in Atlanta for the Stevie Wonder for Kamala event in Atlanta at State Farm, and then the Seahawks the very next day. That was October 19th and 20th. We were as high as a kite then. It was happening.
Is it true?
Remember those days?
Is it true that Stevie can see?
No, you know what? I think he makes his own blind jokes, but that one, there have been incidents like, how can he drum? How can he do? Well, he's been around the instruments just like I used to be good at football. I could do stuff with a football without looking, right? Like you're so used to the equipment. So he can just reach over here and grab his harmonica or play the sticks or whatever. It was a good show. I can do some other concert reviews for you. Pearl Jam, both in Madison Square Garden and at Fenway twice. Really getting off topic here, but what was the question?
Well, the question was, can Stevie Wonder see? Because
No.
the urban legend I heard is that someone that I know is working in a music studio.
No, but
and they're walking.
Bomani Jones makes a very convincing argument, famously.
You want to hear this story? Hold on.
Stevie
I know
Wonder
you want.
can
Hold
see.
on. You want to hear this story? My buddy was walking through a music studio and saw Stevie Wonder at a snack machine trying to figure out what he wanted by himself. That to me is like, look, I'm not saying that he's got 20/20 vision, but I think he can see a little.
He was just feeling the vibes of the potato chips and the crackers and whatnot that was in there and determining which one, his aura was drawn to what. You know, that's what I think was happening that day.
Are there not there's not Braille on vending machines?
Great point. There should be expensive, but my nephew's blind. And did you ever see my nephew and me for Funny or Die? We did a thing called blind football announcer. Why are you laughing at my nephew?
No, he's laughing at me. He's not laughing at you. He's laughing at me.
Okay, that's fine. Troy can take it. So Troy wanted to call a Seahawk game, and for Funny or Die, this is 10 years ago. We went to a real Seahawk game, got a real booth, and Troy was the announcer, and I was the color guy. And he'd be like, Richard Sherman. I said, Troy, no, we're on offense. We're literally, we are on offense. Look it up. It's on the internet. Blind football announcer.
I'm on it.
All right. It's a lot of strange, quirky content that you could look up. Kenny Mayne, do you have anything in your past that you look at and say, this is the best of the strange that I have done? This is the proudest of the strange that represents my work.
Well, the one I'm most proud of, and it involves Stevie Wonder again, I got him, this is the same year as the Seahawks-Steelers Super Bowl, and the baseball All-Star game was also in Detroit. Remember, I used to play in those softball games. And I went to Live 8, not Live Aid, but Live 8. They're trying to get the G8 to relieve African debt, if you guys remember that whole thing. And they had a big concert in Philadelphia. I went down there with no press pass. I kept on upgrading. I'm still shouting. And I got Stevie Wonder to say, I can't be at the baseball all-star game. I have a high ankle sprain. That's the pinnacle. I could have just walked away from that, but I still needed to pay bills and so forth. So I kept in the game.
Believe it or not, Kenny, there are a lot of blind
How
football
did you find
announcers.
that?
Oh, there it is. Okay.
The video team is
what?
very good. They're very quick.
Well, that was really good because we didn't talk about this before. You had some other preloaded stuff, and I got to hear during your break how you guys put stuff together. Either you're very relaxed and good at what you do, you don't know what in the hell you're doing, or you don't care. It's one of those. I don't know which one it is.
Yes.
Yes, it's all of those things. Yes. It's and so we're
Is
throwing
that a fake candle?
We're throwing up. Is that a fake candle? It is a fake candle. Kenny, you can't do better than a fake candle.
Gretchen.
Come on, Kenny.
Gretchen.
Kenny,
No,
what's
we have.
Kenny?
Hold on. You want to see our real candle? We just bought it.
Sure,
Let's go.
Sure,
Go
I would
on.
love to see your real candle.
Sure,
got the
let's see
real
the
candle.
real candle.
Oh,
Yes.
we're on the move.
Look at
Nice
this.
house right
Tour
there.
Okay,
House.
so to the audio listeners, we're going through Kenny Mayne's house. It's beautiful.
What is your interior decorated?
That Sports Center money.
That's a large
Gretchen,
candle.
Rob TV.
Beautiful wainscoting.
Wait, there's Gretchen. Yeah, Gretchen.
Hey, Gretchen.
How you doing?
All right,
They
look.
wanted to see our candle. They were pissed about this candle. They thought it's beneath us.
I mean, it is though.
Oh,
You're-
the fake one? I know, it's pretty bad.
Sorry.
I have a real one I can stick in there instead.
We're trying to save the environment by buying fake candles made from plastic or something.
Do you
Yeah.
want a real candle?
No, they're good.
Okay.
us into your home, and now we just shame your decoration and make you feel guilty about the environment as well. That's excellent.
You want to go outside where we can throw wiffle balls?
Let's do this. What do you want to do? You want to challenge our group here? Is that what we're doing? We've got a setup. I saw somebody setting up in the other room, and it looked like a radar machine was clocking things in the other room.
Yeah. Are we on a time deadline? Isn't this we could just go on forever, right?
No.
Yes.
I mean, yes.
Yes,
Okay.
and.
Yes. Go ahead.
All right, because I love the show and I care about Fubo TV and my show wiffle ball, and I have a wiffle ball. I always have sun in my hand. That's this little thing. It's like a stress reliever, casino dice. It's like when I did Sports Center, I always had a pen or a dice or something, and it's like a pacifier, I guess. So this time it's a wiffle ball, and I'm going to go outside in my bare feet. It's 37 degrees, but we're doing it. And also, Gretchen made me switch shirts. What do you think of this? I should have worn this, right?
Careful with that candle.
Careful with the camera. Why?
No, the candle.
The candle, not the camera. You don't want to catch anything on fire. You don't want anything to catch fire. You want that fabric looks flammable.
We're going back.
Okay,
We're back on the move.
Yeah, we're going back through his house again.
Going live.
Here we go.
Everybody just relax.
So he's in his backyard, ladies and gentlemen. It's
Beautiful landscaping.
Beautiful landscaping. There it is. Look at fall.
How we doing?
That's what it looks like, guys.
He's mentally tougher than us.
No.
It sure is. All right.
Did you show the clip where I went back? We never even talked about the stupid movie, did we? We really didn't. We just kind of like
I think we
on the
talked about plenty.
fringes. Hey,
No, what we
this is the
didn't
thing I
talk
like.
about is the state of America. You avoided that deftly. That's
It
what we
wasn't
did.
time for that. It's not time. We can't do anything about it right now.
That's a good point. It's a damn good point, Dan.
You know
He's
what?
got you there.
You know what? You got me cornered, Mayne. Okay, just throw a wiffle ball then. Let's laugh until fire fills the sky. Go ahead. Go ahead. Just waste our time. Go ahead. Waste our time throwing a wiffle ball.
In the movie, at the beginning, I tell the Dick Williams story. Remember Dick Williams, the crusty old manager, Oakland A's, and he was with the Mariners.
Sure.
And I went up to him on day one. I'm nervous reporter. I'm like, I was trying to do a joke out of the gate. Dick, is it just me, or if you had trouble purchasing wiffle ball equipment this spring? And there was just utter the worst dead air ever. And he goes, I go, the plastic bat thing, the yellow. I know what wiffle ball is. Your joke's not funny. So then I transitioned to, tell me about your middle relief. How will it All right. So I went to Driveline Baseball, Kent, Washington, where they train real athletes, baseball players, trying to top the number that I did with Griffey on inferior equipment. And by the way, it wasn't even a real wiffle ball. So I took a real wiffle ball, went at my age, 35 years later, to try to beat my old number. And I did. The theory was it's a lighter ball and better equipment for judging it. So I challenge your young people who should be able to beat me. They're probably 30 years my junior, right? I'm like a senior citizen.
At least, Ken.
69.
Well, aren't you actually a senior citizen, or is it 65 or 70 that's a senior citizen?
You know what? So I threw 69. I thought I could get higher. I think your young people at 46 feet, it was Little League distance, should be able to. I'm going to throw one by just so you hear the wiffle ball noise, because this is fun.
Let's see.
Okay, let's see if this works as audio, because you're going to have to be accurate.
Oh, snap. He almost hit the camera.
Okay.
I was trying.
He almost hit the camera,
He
ladies
did.
and gentlemen.
It was very accurate. It was very fast. The audio wasn't exceptional.
There was a little bit of
there was
a
speed
whiff.
on it. There was
a whiff.
What do you have a time?
That was 73.
I don't believe you. I believe. Listen, where's the camera that shows us the measurement?
The wry smile kind of gave the game away.
You know how hard it is? Because I've done first pitches at baseball games several times, and I still think I have a decent arm, not what it was 40 years ago. I couldn't even hit. I was like 68, 72, at best 73. Those pitchers, how they do it, the mechanics of it, I'm still just mystified by it. Like how they get up in the 90s and over to 100. They're also 21 years old and 6'5", 240. But the only thing I can still do is throw a football like 40 and in. I'm still pretty good, but the elasticity is gone. I'm in my senior years. I'm not playing from the senior tees, though. I'll tell you that much. We're way back at the whites or the blues.
But you care so little about this particular competition that you're not going to give us an honest time of what it is that you just threw. You're just making up the number 73.
I have a radar gun at my house.
Well, I thought we were doing something for your documentary to promote it.
yes.
I thought you were going to put some effort into this.
To be fair, Kenny, it is a really nice house.
69 terrible candles. 69 is the number I hit last April, or a year ago, April. 69, they got to try to beat. You got to throw it 40 feet or so toward the mound. They wanted me to come up with a prize. I have a highlight, 2 highlight cestas and a pelota. I'm not giving those up. I have a signed wiffle ball from Ken Griffey Jr., but it faded and you can't see the signature anymore, but it's in a glass case. I have a champagne bottle from the Seahawks championship when they beat Denver. I'm not giving that up either. I will do a personal voicemail to the winner because I'm so famous, and I'll say, hey, this is Kenny Mayne, famous guy, and so-and-so, whatever your name is, beat me at wiffle ball. And that'll be his or her outgoing message. That's the best we could come up with.
Okay, a lot of effort and thought and ideas have been poured into this great competition. Let's go out into the other room here and see who we've got. We've got a Pop-Tart. We got Frankie from security. We got Roy, and we got Jessica out there. Willow is also out there. That's a dog. Is Roy going to go first? Who's got the first?
It appears Roy's going first. He's going right now.
Roy prides himself on his arm.
The wind-up and the pitch. That looks
good.
hard. 58.
Wow.
58 miles an hour. That's
Try again.
A warm-up throw. All right, the Pop-Tart's going to go now.
Okay, he says you're going to be able to try again. Now, hasn't Jessica claimed to have a giant arm that can throw oranges 100 yards? Jessica claims to have a giant arm.
She's out there on Willow watch.
Okay.
Now the Pop-Tart throws.
Oh, the Pop-Tart, the costume was inhibiting.
59.
59.
Bad for a
59
Pop-Tart.
for the Pop-Tart. Roy, you're going to get another shot at this. We're going to go through a couple of times. I'm really hoping that Jessica throws something 104 miles an hour.
All right, Roy's going here for the second throw with a wind-up and the pitch.
I think Roy needs more leg action. You're kind of nonchalant, Roy.
They're going normal pitching, whereas, like, can they do crow hops here? Like, could they do it as if they're an outfielder?
No.
I mean, we didn't go over that rule, but I thought it was a wind up and a pitch.
What do you mean, nope? You got in there and you started making rules aggressively all of a sudden. What do you mean you can't do a crow hop? Go ahead, Pop-Tart.
Do whatever you want, Pop-Tart.
Wind up.
There's going to be 37.
Pop-Tart.
37 coming up.
Pop-Tart deals.
He's not very accurate.
57. Jeremy was a high school, like, all-county pitcher, too.
Oh, that's Jeremy.
The Pop-Tart.
All right.
They're only like 10 feet away from the couch. If I stood against my house and just 3 feet away, I think I'd get a bigger
all right,
number.
but we're still getting 59s and not coming anywhere close to beating you. Here comes Jessica here. She is about to throw. Again, she says she can throw an orange 100 yards, the length of a football
she can't.
field.
No. Oh, that was a good throw.
43 miles an hour.
Again, not enough leg action. I feel like they're not using enough torque, Dan.
I feel like we should bail on the entirety of this if no one is going to hit. Oh, now Chris Cody. Here. Chris Cody.
Physical challenge dude.
Okay, he
around
likes.
these parts.
Let's see what we've got here.
Oh, he's stretching, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
That's how. I didn't see anyone. I didn't see the Pop-Tart stretch.
No,
for
this
sure.
seems like a liability issue too. There are a lot of people here who can hurt ligaments, a rotator cuff. Something can be caused here. Chris is about to throw the wiffle ball. This is the final throw.
Oh, that was good.
And
60.
60 miles an hour. 60.
And the dog
So nowhere
celebrates.
near where it is Kenny Mayne. Look at him. The smug look
good.
of arrogance.
Hey,
look how little
is
effort.
Is it really only 10:06 Eastern? Like we've really only been on for 20 some minutes. That feels like 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah, you said you were going to waste our time. We just got 67 miles an hour from Chris Cody, but I think he hurt his hand, and there it is.
I don't believe
the
he's
liability. Yeah, the liability issue I knew was coming. Who was that? Is that Frankie?
No, that's Roy.
It's a sweaterless Roy.
Yeah, Roy took off his sweatshirt.
My arm is killing me right now. I feel like Giannis after that.
What happened? We didn't even get a reading for that one from Roy.
No, because
you should feel tingling all the way down your arm.
Feel it in my wrist. My wrist is
Jeremy
killing
thinks
me.
the Pop-Tart was the problem, so now it's 61 miles an hour. All of this.
I'm going to throw another one at my computer.
Okay, what are we doing now?
Yes,
all right,
this is
now we're
great
just
radio.
wasting everybody's time. All right,
Oh, there
no
it
one
is.
is having proper respect for what it is that we're doing around here.
Kenny just.
Kenny.
Oh, yeah. He hit the camera. He hit the camera.
Kenny, thank you. Wiffle
No,
ball.
I'm still here. Still going, guys. Hold on. I want to tell you about my next documentary.
8 p.m. Eastern on Fubo. The documentary is called Wiffle Ball. Thank you, Kenny.
And
Good
Roku.
seeing you. Good talking to you. Always nice seeing your face.
Thanks for the warm introduction.
Yeah, you're welcome. He's very strange, and he's the worst contestant in the history of Dancing with the Stars.
Chris Cody's really hurt.
Oh, I know he is.
I'm in
I
pain,
told you
dude.
guys that was a bad idea. Thank you, Kenny. See you later.
Thank you.
I mean, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what is happening tomorrow night between Mike Tyson and Jake Paul.
Yes.
Because I said the other day when we were talking about this, and I said it matter-of-factly, that I thought that the combination of streaming, getting into live sports, combined with fame and the currency of pop culture, people are talking about you. Jake Paul and Mike Tyson cover a wide swath of real estate on fame for 4 decades, right? Because if Tyson's been famous since he's 20 years
the
old.
80s.
Since he's 20 years old,
Yeah.
Tyson's
Jake Paul's
been
been famous for close to a decade.
and so there's a lot of. So somebody now beats Kenny Mayne.
Jeremy just
not
did 72.
useful. Now Kenny Mayne
Get Kenny back on
Now
the
he
air.
throws 72 miles an hour.
72.
I got it up to 65.
No one has proof of that. I thought you were Frankie before.
That's what.
What?
When you
Yeah,
took, when you took
You
off
took
your
off
hoodie,
your, you took off your hoodie, and I
he
thought you were
different.
Frankie because you were far away.
I didn't want to
from the
call Dan
camera.
out on that, but he has now since revealed himself to be racist.
If I had said that,
You've known me for 20 years.
No, it's my glasses. Don't take it
known
personally.
Frankie for
wearing
10.
I don't see color.
He doesn't see
I
anything.
hurt my elbow a little.
Yeah, it seemed like a terrible idea.
I need Tommy John.
I didn't warm up. It was bad. But 43, not bad for someone that's never thrown a wiffle ball before.
A terrible idea, poorly executed because there were injuries and we didn't get the payoff because
Camera shots were great.
Jeremy didn't throw at 72 miles an hour until we were off air and Kenny Mayne was gone.
now Rose is going.
Rose, very half-hearted.
15 miles
I
an
don't
hour.
really want to do any more play-by-play of that room. You guys can stop going to that room whenever it is that you want.
You can
'cause
throw it up
we've
as eye
gone to it
candy.
about 10 times too many already.
That was really fun, though.
And yeah, I know it was fun. So fun that
that was a good
when
throw.
Chris Cody ran back in here, forgot we were live, forgot we still had show to do, just came in dancing because he threw a ball hard and forgot that he had a job to do and hurt his arm on top of that.
So Jake Paul and Mike Tyson, huh?
Yes. Well, the thing that I wanted to ask you, because I said it flippantly last week, is I think that will do bigger numbers than Tom Brady's roast. Tom Brady's roast was the biggest thing that Netflix has had in comedy. They don't release exact numbers, but Netflix was very happy with that foray into live streaming. And the future, as we all know, of money in this business, a business that's changing rapidly, by the way, like changing in enormous ways, where it seems like Amazon and Netflix are just going to buy everything up and they're going to be in control of content for a while. Netflix is getting into the game with a Friday night event that is going to have, I think, more talk and publicity around it than when Chris Rock went live, and they're trying to change live and streaming and comedy there, and the Tom Brady roast where they're going live on content. I think this has the chance to be the biggest live thing that Netflix has done just because of how many people it could get into the tent with just, what is this circus act? It has next to nothing to do with boxing, but I don't want to spend too much time either mocking it or even analyzing the character of the two people doing this to make all this money. But as like the apocalypse happens all around us and we try to dismantle the government, this is the perfect spectacle for the stupidity of our times. Like to throw this in Jerry World and just say, sure, let's everybody gather around the TV and empty our head with empty calories.
Well, I think, first of all, I think it's going to do bigger than the Brady roast for the simple reason that there's stakes here. The stakes are, one, how many people want to see Jake Paul just get punched in the face really, really hard? And two is, all right, what is the definition of the upper limit on age for an athlete? Because that, beyond the people who want to see Jake Paul get knocked out, myself included, there is a curiosity. It's like, okay, Mike Tyson, the most feared man on the planet, is he still that at 58? Should we still fear him in that same way? I'm of the belief, having been face-to-face, eye-to-eye with Mike Tyson in a less than friendly environment, that never fades. It never goes away. He's always going to be terrifying.
Wait, what happened with you and Mike Tyson?
I've told this story before.
I'm not familiar. For the uninitiated.
All right.
Briefly, catch me up.
Briefly. All right. So I'm walking through a bar in Scottsdale, Arizona, and it's really packed. And as you're walking past the bar, there are people leaving the bar, turning around with drinks, right? So as I'm squeezing by, just trying to get through to the back, someone turns with their drinks. I bump into them. The drink splashes. It splashes all over Mike Tyson.
What a nightmare.
He turns around, and this once packed bar all of a sudden is deserted. It's like the Wild West, and it's just me and him, and everyone's about 100 feet back. And I'm staring at him, and he's staring at me. And he's short. That's what a lot of people don't realize. He's not a tall guy.
Yeah, Jake Paul's bigger.
I'm bigger. I'm taller.
How short are we talking?
I'm taller than Mike Tyson.
He's about 5'10", I think.
Not 5'10".
No one's 5'10".
Not 5'10".
No one's 5'10".
I'm looking at him. And
I thought no one's 5'11", I thought no one's 5'11".
Some people are 5'11".
I don't trust 5'10".
You think he's not 5'10"?
He's not 5'10", for sure.
What is he listed at, Roy, please?
5'10".
Terrifying.
And I think like Jake Paul's up to close to 240 now. When we did Las Vegas.
Feet tall?
No. When we did in Las Vegas, I walked past Jake Paul, who was at the hotel that we were at, and I was stunned at how big this guy was. I did not know that. He's bigger than me.
So he's splashed with the drink. I'm looking at him, and the black lights in the bar are making his tattoo, which at this point was still pretty new, glow.
What a gnarly visual.
Oh, my God. And he's furious. There's nothing, like, there's no part of this, and it's clear in my face, like, I didn't do it, but it's like, he's looking at me like I just said, hey, and I just doused him with a drink. So he's looking at me, and I'm looking at him. He's looking at me, I'm looking at him. I'm like, what do I do? What do I say? What do I do? And somewhere in the back of my mind, something said, Amin, Mike Tyson converted to Islam. So I say, Salam alaikum, brother. And he grabs me by my forearm and pulls me in real close, real sharply, and his mouth is right by my ear. And he says, alaikum salam. And I'm like, because I thought he was going to bite my ear off. I really did. And then he released me, and I scurried away. And the next time I saw Mike Tyson was 2 years later when my buddy said, hey, we're going to a New Year's party in Vegas. Come to this address. I ring the doorbell, and it's Mike Tyson.
How do you have multiple Mike Tyson
Dude, I
stories?
have another one.
He's just in Arizona all
When
the
I
time?
was 7 years old, I met Mike Tyson. Yeah, it's crazy. I've met Mike Tyson like 4 or 5 times in my life. Every time has been a wildly different experience. And there's never a point in this where there's any recognition. Not that he should, but
You think he should remember his encounters
Didn't
with
I
you?
meet you when you were 7?
yeah, you look like a kid I knew once upon a time.
I want to talk about the history of Mike Tyson, but as it applies specifically to the fight that you're going to be watching, the sports of it. Can you guys get for me, I'd asked the production team to find the audio of Mike Tyson's last actual fight, not the one against Roy Jones Jr., but the last fight of his career where he fought a person who was a really mediocre boxer, a boxer that was a professional, but was not in any way any good, and Mike Tyson embarrassed himself. It was a shell of the person that people had been watching for 20 years. Even the one who lost to Buster Douglas didn't look like this. I don't know if we have the right sound of that interview, but let me hear that interview and do me the favor of finding me the name of the opponent, some of the information about the opponent, and when that fight was, because I think this is about 15 years ago or something like that. Mike Tyson telling you he doesn't have the stomach for any of this.
Did you want to continue?
Well, I would like to continue, but I saw that I was getting beat on. I realized I don't think I have it anymore because I got the ability to stay in shape, but I don't got the fighting guts, I don't think, anymore.
When did you recognize that? At what part of the fight?
I don't know. Early into the fight. I'm just sorry I let everybody down. I just don't have this in my heart anymore.
Did you feel as though you had it coming into the fight?
No, I'm just fighting to take care of my bills, basically. I don't have the stomach for this kind of no more. I'm more conscious of my children and those guys looking at my parents. I don't have that ferocity. I'm not an animal anymore.
Does that mean we won't see you fight again?
Yeah, that's most likely. I'm not going to fight again. I'm not going to disrespect the sport anymore by losing to this caliber of fighters.
Okay, and what he said at the end, this caliber of fighter, it was shocking to watch that, which was Mike Tyson taking a beating the entirety of a fight against somebody who stunk. That was 19 years ago. 19 years ago, that's Mike Tyson talking about losing badly to a mediocre fighter. And so I don't think this will tell us about anything about Jake Paul as a fighter, but I'm genuinely curious about whether Jake Paul can just take a barrage from Mike Tyson. There are different rules for this fight than the normal fight. The gloves are more gentle than normal gloves. The rounds are shorter. There are fewer rounds for this fight than a normal fight. But you guys think you're going to see what? Because the betting money keeps coming in on Jake Paul, correct?
Dude, Mike Tyson had to stop camp because his body was giving out on him. And there's all sort of ambiguity surrounding the health episode that he had in camp. He's an older man, and Jake Paul is in prime physical condition. He just needs to run around for a little bit, and Mike Tyson's going to be tired.
So you're of the belief, Amin, that a 58-year-old Mike Tyson is just going to get tired prowling a ring? Because I do think that the people listening to this have very little understanding of what 2 minutes of cardio in boxing actually is. I don't know that a lot of people, when you combine the fear with what it is that you're physically doing. And the fear the hour before you walk into the ring of, oh my God, I'm now in the middle of a whole bunch of people and I have the potential to look like Spo at the end of a game when somebody hits me.
If he's looked like Spo, then that must have been the biggest win of the night. To walk out of that looking like Spo, that's not the fear. The fear is I'm going to get pulverized because I guarantee you, I don't care how much shape he's in and how much younger, he's never been hit by anything as hard as Mike Tyson. That's what it comes down to. Yes, you're right. If he runs around the ring and extends this and makes it into a marathon, not a sprint, he greatly improves his chances. Even in Mike Tyson's prime, we knew longer fight is worse for Mike. But it all comes down to one thing. Can you eat that punch? And I don't know if he's ever been hit as hard as he's going to get hit by Mike Tyson.
Is there any scenario where this turns out to be like them just playing patty cake for a payday for Mike Tyson? Where we come here Monday and we're like, I can't believe we all fell for this. That was a joke.
You'll know right away because if Tyson doesn't charge him, you'll know right away. The way Tyson fights is always straight ahead. If Tyson wants to prowl the ring with him, you will know right away. Because Tyson was straight ahead as a fighter. The reason he became the most feared isn't because he just knocked everyone out. It's because you didn't know how to hit him. It was straight at you, and he didn't back down, no matter your size advantages. He was always, man, go look at what Frank Bruno looked like in his prime, going to the ring to fight Mike Tyson, crossing himself because he was so afraid. If Jake Paul isn't afraid, he ought to be because of what Amin is talking about. Even at 58, no one would want to be hit by this human being.
Dan, we're efforting this right now. I just sent it to the video guys, but Roy Jones Jr. was on All the Smoke, and he talked about that fight that he had against Mike, which was an exhibition. It wasn't real. And you've talked to Roy Jones. You know Roy Jones. This is one of the proudest human beings ever, right? For frame of reference for the younger listeners, he once in the middle of a fight broke his hand, so then he beat the guy up with his other hand, and then later on made a song about it. He said, y'all must have forgot when I broke.
One of the greatest fighters ever. One of the toughest fighters
One of the toughest fighters ever. To listen to him on All the Smoke talk about Mike Tyson, fighting Mike Tyson, the amount of, whether you want to call it fear or deference, I've never heard Roy Jones be that vulnerable, like he was a regular dude, Mike. Dan. Oh,
that's okay. Mike. No, what Amin is talking about though is what I see happening around this fight everywhere, which is people my age and Amin's age are nostalgic for remembering something that was this feared because it doesn't exist now. You don't. Even the MMA guys that crawl around on the floor, it's not when it's wrestling. It's not quite what Ngannou was in that sport, where it's someone who's physically stronger than everyone else. And the people listening to this are going to also remember and would fight you in the street if you were Mitch Blood Green outside in Harlem at 4 a.m. outside a haberdashery. Like if you wanted
That's one of the greatest stories of all time, by the
but
way.
would do it like as heavyweight champion, would fight you in the street outside of a haberdashery and Mitch Blood Green, you could look him up too, not a small human being, not a human being to be trifled with, and left him, really bloodied. The legend of Mike Tyson is 40 years in the making.
Dan, Fat Joe told one of the greatest stories I've ever heard, where he said him and Big Pun were at this club called The Tunnel, which was a very infamous, very rough crowd, rowdy crowd, and the bouncers were the baddest human beings ever. And so there was a misunderstanding. The bouncers started getting physical with Fat Joe and Big Pun. Big Pun says, F that, I'm going to F all y'all up. There's like 25 of them and just 2 of Joe and Pun. And Joe's like, as Joe telling the story, he's like, there's no chance we're going to win this. But, I can't abandon my guy, but it's like, do we have to do this? And so as it's clear that an ass whooping is about to happen right outside of the tunnel, they hear from the background, hey, Joe, hey, Pun, I got y'all. And Mike Tyson comes out. He kicks off his Gucci loafers and starts chasing the bouncers barefoot. And Joe says at one point, Mike is playing that cat and mouse game around a car with a bouncer, and the bouncer's like, Joe, please tell him I'm sorry. I won't. It's this 6'5", 280-pound dude begging for his life because a rabid Mike Tyson is after him.
I think that was soon after Tyson had come out of prison. I think it was, or right before he was supposed to go in.
This is late 90s because this is after Big Pun has become.
Does anyone care about the legend of this? Because half of the people watching this are going to be watching because of Jake Paul, correct? This is what this audience is half is going to be get into the tent because you're like me and Amin and being like, because I didn't watch the Roy Jones Jr. I thought that was going to make me sad. This one, I find myself interested in it, even though I don't think the merits of it as a boxing match are art in any way.
So you're watching it?
Yes,
because
I'm interested.
I can already see the awful announcing headline that makes it seem like you're speaking from on high, because you said some things that kind of dismiss this for a circus, but you're right there. You're eating at the trough.
I want to mock it and enjoy it. I don't want to celebrate it as boxing. I don't mind it as an event that feels like America's going to gather around the television on something, because I think it's going to do monster numbers. I don't think it's going to fail.
Dan,
even if it fails as an entertainment spectacle, I don't think it's going to fail in terms of drawing viewers, which is what boxing has now become. To me, obviously, it saddens me to see a sport that I really cherished not be able to produce an event like this when heavyweight nights in America used to be the biggest thing in sports, when there was a championship fight. To see it distorted to this obviously disappoints me, but not enough to keep me away from the circus tent.
I'm a little worried about Mike Tyson's health, honestly, in the fight. I tuned in and I watched Logan Paul box Floyd Mayweather. It was an underwhelming spectacle, but it was a spectacle. I like the circus.
Although I was born in a box, boxing has never really been for me.
Get it? Because he's up.
That was good. No. Oh man, I am with Jer Bear on this, where I wasn't born in the golden era of boxing, and so I think the younger people that like boxing are the ones that are there for the Paul brothers, and I'm not really into that either. So this is sort of I will be watching Houston versus Arizona tomorrow night.
This is the thing.
Big one for the Wildcats.
This is the thing. These are two people. You got a convicted rapist who is in the ring after serving time, and also in the details of this man's life, lest you wonder why it is he was so feared, went to prison and was grateful because it slowed down his life and he wasn't scared of anyone there, and he could just live a more disciplined life that felt safer to him in prison than what was happening outdoors, being the famous heavyweight champion of the world, because he couldn't handle all of that. Was very comfortable in prison.
Yeah, you could say that. The legend has it, he's the only person who checked into prison and wasn't freaking out on their first night.
I mean,
he kind of made himself home, and everyone's like, "Oh,
it's a fairly shocking. It's a fairly
think about that.
Shocking
hey, dude,
thing to learn.
You're going to spend the next X amount of years sequestered from society. You're going to be on a strict regimen, and you're going to eat this crap that we serve you, and you're not going to have any freedoms." And Michael's like, "Cool. Like that in of itself is terrifying enough. But this is Roy Jones Jr., Dan, talking to the All the Smoke guys about his fight with Mike Tyson.
I was worried. I was too. Listen, y'all can't be out there trying to kill each other. What else do he know?
That's all he know.
What else do he know? If he trying to hit you, like he gonna be trying to kill you. That's all he know. So first time he hit me in the chest, I feel like a horse and keep myself. I ain't think he punched like this still. You feel me? I think he slowed down. Nah, bro. I ain't slowed down. At 54, he's still that fast?
He's still slipping them?
You feel me? He's still slipping all my stuff. And I'm right now, because I got to be right just in case he get wrong, and we going to get wrong together. You feel me? I'm thinking, you understand me? He's fast here, and he punched like here. First of all, he's still too strong. He still got all his old tricks, and he's much harder to hit than I ever thought he would have been. You understand me? That's what was surprising to me.
So you hear Steven Jackson said, I was worried for you, and Roy Jones Jr. says, I was worried too. I've never heard him sound that vulnerable, that like I said, he sounded like a regular guy got in a ring with Mike Tyson.
If you know the credentials of the person saying that, you understand what Amin is saying. And there are, I'm going to have to concede after earlier arguments, degrees of toughness. But I would ask you again, as we go back to Eagles-Patriots Super Bowl, you think that the Eagles won that Super Bowl because they were tougher after Tom Brady threw for 500 yards in that game?
Classic Dan, boiling it down to a singular thing. No, I think it was a contributing factor.
But the Patriots lack no toughness, correct?
They're also a tough team, but on that day, the Eagles proved to be tougher along the inside.
You have to be mentally tough to call the Philly special in that spot.
So tough.
You guys interested? Am I going to be the only one watching?
No, I'm gonna see if I can watch it.
My buddy's having people over. Like, it's a thing. It's definitely.
I just really want to see Jake Paul get knocked out.
Yeah.
Absolutely watching. Dan, you could tell me only 3 people were watching this, and I'd be one of those 3 people.
But what I'm asking,
I'd be the third.
And Mike Tyson would be, aren't you that 7-year-old kid that I bumped into?
Dude, I have so many more Mike Tyson stories. It's crazy. He's the most fascinating athlete of my time.
Yeah, you can make that argument. I don't know that you would get a lot of, in terms of just interesting, and everything swirling around him. I saw a documentary, or started to watch a documentary last night on Ted Turner on Max, and I'm like, oh my God, that's got to
How
be
is
interesting.
that?
Because I just started. I'm like, this is going to be fascinating because this guy has lived just such an enormous life. I can't believe Mike Tyson is still alive to be able to collect this paycheck. Mike Tyson can't believe that Mike Tyson is still alive to collect this paycheck.
With all his faculties. I mean, most of them.
Some of them.
Look, you know how boxers age. They don't typically age like Mike, right? Roy Jones is a great example of one who's aged great, but Roy Jones was a guy that like nobody could touch. He was so quick. Same thing with Floyd Mayweather. Same thing with the Golden Boy, Oscar De La Hoya. These are all guys, first of all, smaller guys. Second of all, guys that their elusiveness was a big part of their thing, right? Mike took some hits, dude. He took some beatings in there. And for him to be reasonably comparable to what he was like at a younger age mentally is kind of shocking in and of itself, no?
My arm is still throbbing.
Yeah.
This guy, toughness.
Show hangout next week. A week from today, we will be at one of my favorite places on the planet, a Flanagan's. That's right. 3 of my favorite things are coming together for one spectacular event.
Browns football.
Not Browns football.
Willow.
Is she going to be there?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
All right.
What?
So
I heard it was outdoors. I asked if I could bring Willow, and I was told I could bring Willow.
that is a selling point. Miller Lite, you've secured Willow. All right, Miller Lite, Le Batard Show, Flanagan's, Thursday Night Football, happening. We like to get out there and touch the fans, touch the people. We will be in North Miami Beach. The address for this Flanagan's is 13205 Biscayne Boulevard, North Miami. And we're going to have a great time. There's going to be Miller Lite, flowing. There's going to be me rooting for the Steelers, I think, over the Browns in this game. I'm a big Mr. Unlimited fan now. I love Mr. Unlimited. And also, let's just laugh at the Browns together. Let's have some rib rolls. Let's have some Miller Lite. And let's root for an under.
Roy, will you be going?
Maybe.
All right. right. Looking forward to it. We do like Flanagan's around here.
Like is really underselling it. It is a part of the South Florida experience to go to a Flanagan's. There isn't a true native South Floridian that doesn't adore Flanagan's. It's our little space. It is here in this little bottom half of this wonderful peninsula that a lot of people have a lot of feelings about.
It's ours. It's uniquely ours. Pablo Torre joins us now. He is now officially, I think, signed a contract to be a part of the powerful liberal media elite with MSNBC. I believe that he is now under threat the same way The View is, because The View doesn't have enough opinions on its show, and I'm sure that Pablo Torre's show is also an echo chamber filled with a bunch of people just like him. Congratulations, Pablo, on your new job.
Yeah, it's me and Whoopi Goldberg in a bunker, and we shout takes at each other, and it's going great so far.
How did you experience yesterday in America with the dismantling of our government with an assortment of and awful people?
Yeah, on some level, I was like, of course, this is of course the most predictable thing. And another level surprised me insofar as I was like, I'm now, I guess, gonna read some Matt Gaetz research. I'm gonna actually think about this for a while. I don't have a lot to say that isn't probably predictable in the sense of this is exactly the stupidity that is cinematically on the nose, appropriate. But yeah, part of me is like, it's going to be funny when Donald Trump, of course, claims victimhood because some of these guys maybe don't get confirmed. That's maybe the chess move here, if there is chess. Otherwise, it's going to be confirmed, in which case, yeah, this is going to go great.
Wait, is Pablo liberal Joe Rogan?
This is not an echo chamber. Pablo Torre and his dalliances with MSNBC are something that I find myself turning Republican as I watch him go and
How
do
dare
these
you?
appearances.
How dare you?
I find myself creeping over somehow to the side of Matt Gaetz as I just hear you be highfalutin with Joe Scarborough, Cup of Joe.
You might want to do some of the research I've been doing into Matt Gaetz before you say that you're on the side of Matt Gaetz. There's a lot underneath that umbrella category.
No, wait a minute. That's how terrible you are. That has nothing to do with how not terrible he is. I'm saying that when I hear you guys...
Are you sure?
When I hear you guys...
Creeping was accurate, though.
Yes,
accurate
maximum creeping. But what I'm saying is there's no way that anyone watching Pablo talk on MSNBC doesn't get bothered even if they agree with him.
I got to tell you, Dan, after being beholden to your audience and to, of course, the 5 to 6 p.m. audience on ESPN, I have a whole new demo that I didn't know would ever care about my takes. And yes, they are largely older women, but it has been fantastic for your boy. I'm walking around and I'm hearing lots of great feedback that is the opposite, in fact, of what creeping Dan Le Batard has described.
An echo chamber. Yeah, I'm surprised you're getting a lot of positive feedback.
Are you a zaddy now? Are you a liberal zaddy?
Look, you asked if I'm liberal Joe Rogan. I am on testosterone replacement therapy. I am, in fact, increasingly convinced that they're aliens. And I do hang out with problematic people who compare themselves potentially to alleged, offenders like the sweaty dude who just said he was on the side of Matt Gaetz. So kind of adds up.
Did not say that. Said it made me go closer to where his side was than your side just because of how awful you also are.
Pablo, were you aware that there is a subsect of hardcore progressives that think that the UFO thing is just a diversionary tactic, that they're UFO agnostic, and this is all just a conspiracy theory to deflect people's attention from the real news? And I would say that, man, the real news deflected a lot of attention from someone claiming we collected non-human biologics from a crash site.
Yeah, in general, I'm like, the deep state we've been warned about. When are they going to show up? Because so far, it's just a lot of people just doing whatever they want without any sort of counter from the alleged forces that are secretly puppeteering everything, including, it turns out, me and my vocal cords. And it's not showing up so far. So I'm just waiting. I'm waiting for that. Waiting for those for that stimulus package to kick in.
You used to be a member or might still be a member of the Boxing Writers Association of America. Are you still a member or did you used to be a member?
An award-winning member. Dan, thank you for asking.
You still are then?
Probably not. I haven't paid my dues in a while. So maybe if they just kept me on accidentally, but yeah, haven't put my membership papers in a long time.
The reason that I asked the question is just what are you to make? Like what you are somebody who fits right in the prime demo on whatever it is that Jake Paul and Mike Tyson are trying to do tomorrow night that is spectacle and not really sport. So you are where on this? I loved the mixed martial arts and combat sports. I'm using it past tense because I really did like the artistry and science of what it is that I was watching, which is vulnerability with maximum fear, overcoming that fear to do something that's really hard to do in front of people and by yourself. No teamwork, no teammates. Like, I'm fascinated by the courage of all of that and the desperation that goes into making people choose that as a living. But I've soured on it a great deal because this is the crud that now passes for what this sport is. And I'm not even here to knock it because it's smart. They're going to make all the money.
Yeah, for a long time, anybody who would ask me, so how do you feel about the NFL and how do you feel about, again, these sort of like moral scolding-y sort of issues around sports, how do you feel about them? I'd be like, look, you should know something about me. I like boxing. I covered boxing. Boxing is consensual concussions. Like, extrapolate from that my actual moral scale. If people are aware of what they're doing and they go into the ring and they want to entertain people and put their humiliation and their health on the line, guess what? I'm super into that. I'm super interested. There's nothing better, Dan, as you experience yourself as a columnist, than like covering a fight. The thing about this, though, is that it reminds me about just how dead my nerve endings are now. And this is the through line from like, what do you think about Matt Gaetz to what do you think about Jake Paul fighting Mike Tyson at age 60 or whatever it is? Like, I've been on the internet a long time, man. Like, at a certain point, it became very obvious what the game is, to the point where the think piece about the game became less interesting. Of course, it's about humiliation on the line. Of course, it's about attention. Of course, boxing was ahead of all of this, all of us as a society, in terms of like what the game is here, attention being currency, hatred being a lure to more eyeballs. Like, all of that was obvious in boxing. This is, of course, the logical and now kind of boring result. You know, like what enlivens me? Like, Matt Gaetz, Attorney General, kind of sparked something, and then it was back to like, yeah, but again, I kind of expected that.
You're numb? You're numb?
Yes. It's not weird enough. It's just not weird enough. My tolerance for weird, like a Chris Cody who has been reared on online pornography and really needs something extreme to get even the juices going anymore. That's how I feel about politics and sports and weird boxing events. It's just like not weird enough. Sorry, do better.
What were your thoughts on the last 24 hours of Alex Jones?
I mean, what Ben Collins is doing at The Onion feels like something that we need. And I say we as just like people who want comedy as a concept to not be monopolized by people who are deeply unfunny and actually very deeply scolding in their attempt to be endangered species, which is to say Ben Collins in The Onion buying Infowars at a bankruptcy auction is perfect. It's perfect. And I'm excited for the investment. Again, like real people with money putting those resources into what feels like a joke and yet is also an appropriate commentary, given, again, all the caveats apply about why Alex Jones, of course, is odious and why it's insane that we let him into anything resembling polite spaces in an era where polite spaces are basically non-existent. But I love it. I love the poetry of it. That did actually get me going a bit. It was inspiring, frankly. Like, what a great bit was my number one reaction.
I was trying to figure out how to buy it. I just didn't think I could find the funny in the bit. I was trying to think of where it is that we could make an attempt to try and buy that and be funny around it, but it seemed all too dangerous to try to be funny about. I will say, though, odious, I can't do a better word than that. Comedically and accurately, odious is somebody do better than odious. When describing somebody and wanting to most dismiss them, I'm asking the group here to give me a better word.
Ratfink?
Comedically than odious. Just, well,
Ked?
not just insults. I'm looking more sort of for adjectives, really. Odious.
What's an adjective?
Dip It's a noun.
Shit for
You
brain.
guys are using all nouns.
Repugnant.
You guys, yeah, repugnant's pretty
Noxious?
good. That's a good one for you.
I go feckless sometimes. Feckless.
Oh, give him the highfalutin sound. That right there is the music. Feckless is
Abhorrent.
Feckless is too highbrow. How are you pronouncing that? I go abhorrent there. I've got a
Abhorrent.
I've got the abhor. I've got abhorrent is how I do it there.
Hard whore.
Odious. Odious is pretty damn good, Pablo. I salute you. I can't do better
Thank
than
you.
that. I'm thinking.
It evokes a smell. There's like a stench. There's an
that's
implied
why,
stench
but
to
that's,
odious.
No, but it doesn't. It's not implied. Odious. You're telling me that something stinks immediately. Like that's.
Yeah, I want to barf.
Yeah,
it makes me want to barf. Barf worthy, not as highfalutin, but means the same thing.
Pablo, I'm curious your opinion on this. I'm kind of everyone's trying to unpack what happened and how our generation was told we have to leave this place better for our kids. And then our kids ended up voting for Republicans in record numbers, it would appear. And it caught a lot of people by surprise. And then I realized that's how teenage rebellion kind of works. It was the same case with kids that were born during the Reagan administration. They veered more liberal, so maybe this is the yo-yo that'll go back and forth. I do actually think progressives are in a good position now, although they won't ever agree on that given everything that's happened, especially in the last few days. But it's a lot cooler to be chasing. You can be anti-establishment when you're not the ones in charge. Our show peaked when Donald Trump had his first term in terms of audience, in terms of reach, in terms of cultural impact, because we were chasing that. Then when we were all of a sudden in charge, I use we, the royal we, the cool thing was to go against who was in charge and rage against that machine. So now that the shoe is going to be on the other foot, I actually think you got to lean into the cool things that make you rebellious.
Yeah, I saw among many charts that my brain has picked up like a lint roller over the last several weeks, just like bits of trash and information. That demographic chart about how Gen X was the strongest generation in terms of favoring Trump was perfect, right? Because, of course, Gen X, rebels, people who are too cool, who are anti the system, end up embodying the very thing that they railed against. And this is in some ways, Mike, like, yeah, the pendulum, just the pendulum of human political behavior swinging back and forth such that any sort of murder mystery diagnosis of like, who caused this? Who did it? Oh, it was Pablo Torre in the library with a take about trans people. It's like, no, actually, it's probably just the pendulum swinging back and forth. Everybody feeling like they don't want to be the system and therefore plausibly claiming that they're not the system when they're out of power. We're definitely getting, in terms of like people who are not on the, again, the Matt Gaetz side of things, we're getting to benefit from that actual danger, actual potentially, persecution, prosecution from the richest man in the world who has become the most powerful private citizen in the history of America after campaigning against the unelected forces actually running America. Like, of course, like, yeah, fill in all of the obvious hypocrisies that you might point out with your magnifying glass at this point. But we're back to being, in danger from a political perspective and therefore probably culturally ascendant in that same way.
Quick follow-up, curious your thoughts. It's been said, and I don't see any hard data that suggests this, so I guess it's been hypothesized that millennials are better at parsing through misinformation on the internet better than any other generation. Not the ones that were born when the internet was fully rocking and a thing, not the ones that were pre-internet. We're the only generation that met it kind of in the middle. We remember life before the internet, and we remember when the internet came along. Why do you think that's being said about our generation, that we're the best at filtering through this? It would stand to reason that it would be the youngest generations that would be better because it's so ever present.
Yeah, because you have older friends, parents, bosses, hosts of this very show, in fact, who are constantly asking us, how do you do this thing on your phone? And then we have to realize we don't know either. And so we got to figure that out.
Unnecessary.
You know, when Dan's AOL email address is asking, is this shark real?
Okay.
It's like, yeah, we got trained in speaking to both parties here.
Okay.
We are across the aisle of time and politics in that way. Also, Mike, just in terms of my nostalgia, like, I think we're a generation that longs for the sweet, sweet simplicity of a dial-up modem screaming at us. We remember what it was like when you had to earn a JPEG. When Carmen Electra, loading that image was a character-building, patience-requiring experience. We didn't have the on-demand synapse destruction of whatever, again, Chris Cody is into these days.
Mom, get off the phone. I'm
Yes.
trying to chat someone. My crush is online.
Yes. We remember what it meant when a door opened and closed on our buddy list.
Who is that?
Damn it.
Goodbye.
Rest in peace, by the way.
He just died.
Goodbye.
He just died. Oh, he died
Wait,
a week
wait,
ago. The
wait.
AOL goodbye. You
have male voice? He
got
passed
mail.
away last
Just
week.
passed away last week, yeah.
Tom Hanks?
No. He's still very much alive and thinks 35 is the toughest age.
Pablo, stay right there for a second. We have to go immediately to Amin Al-Hassan. He is taking a victory lap. It is a sponsored segment. It is important that we break into all programming to take care of our sponsors. We will continue to tell the audience, one of the most supportive audiences in the history of all media, not just sports media, to please support the sponsors who support us. And here is Amin Al-Hassan taking a victory lap today, and I can see where this is going.
Oh, Dan. First of all, shout out to Jocelyn Thompson Rule. I call her Joss Rule. She's my instructor on the Peloton app. I love the Peloton app. Every time we do this segment, everyone's winded and out of breath and sweating, and they're doing jumping jacks and stuff. And I think it's intimidating sometimes. Some people are like, I can't do Peloton. I'm not in shape. Guess what? They've got a lot of stuff for beginners, for starters. Take it easy. Like I said, Joss Rule has me on a 5-minute warm-up walk, which is perfect. Because I'm doing a victory lap, baby.
Can we get to the victory lap, please? I didn't need the preamble. I could just use the victory lap.
Buddy, the preamble is kind of what's paying for this whole thing, so relax on that. But as I was saying, me and Josh Rule were doing a little victory lap because my Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets did what I told you all would happen last week. I said it multiple times, and you guys were like, oh, analytics say, huh? And what did I tell you, Dan? It's so freeing to be a fan. You guys suck. We're going to kick your ass. And that's all it took. And by the way, I heard the analysis on Monday. I heard it, Mike. You guys talk so much. Well, our defense. And if our defense can, our defense. What about our defense? What about our defense? We locked y'all up. We locked up the Heisman Trophy winning guy who's going to win the Heisman Trophy. We locked up the number one offense in the land. You guys did not give our defense enough credit. Forget about how our offense kicked your ass. We knew that was going to happen. You guys suck on the defensive side. But the thing that you're great at, we stopped you there too. You guys said, oh, well, Miami's going to score 38 points every game. But the only question is the other team will score 40. We didn't have to. You know why? Because we put y'all in cuffs. Guantanamo. That's where Cam Ward is at right now. Wondering what went wrong in his life.
Really?
Yeah.
Guantanamo.
Yes.
He essentially scored 35, and he kept the ball 9 minutes at a time. That was really more about the offensive execution.
Look, buddy, you had your opportunities. They gave the dude the ball. Could you make something happen? No, he couldn't.
Fair enough.
Sorry.
This segment is supposed to be you breathless. It's victory.
No. It's a victory lap. No one sprints in a victory lap, Dan. And like I said, the Peloton app is great because it has stuff for beginners. You don't have to be killing yourself on the first day. You can ease into it. And that's where I'm at. And by the way, I am out of breath and shiny too. So I don't know. Just because I'm not like Tony doing push-ups and stuff doesn't mean I'm not tired in here. Cardio comes in many different forms. Also, this is not the picture I wanted. This is like the nerds from Comp E rushing the field. I wanted the dude that looked like the Red Rifle taking a selfie next to Mario Cristobal.
That was a great picture, and as soon as I saw you there, I wanted to tell video, why are you not using that other great picture as opposed to the one you are using? I wanted to say that, and it's funny that you would say that you wanted the other one, which is spectacular, and not that one.
Yeah, I mean, I say it because I know sometimes there are things that are wrong with like, oh, well, look, the synapses and the pixelation. I don't give a put that picture up. I don't care if it's stretched and Mario Cristobal looks like he's 400 pounds as opposed to 350. Put it up there. I want to see it because I want to be that kid for a second. I don't miss a whole lot about college, but I do miss rushing the field. Then there it is. There's my boy. Hold on. Yeah, buddy. Yeah, buddy. Oh, look at his face. Oh, how dare he take a picture of me? How dare you try to win against Georgia Tech, baby? Huh? How
Mario
dare
Cristobal's not feeling good about that photo for a number of reasons.
He needs a bra.
The boobs, the boobs.
Yeah.
Pablo,
A man's ear.
Pablo, what were you going to say? You wanted to get in here?
Yeah, I just wanted to apologize to Chris Cody. And we collectively have been turning him into the avatar, of course, of pornography in America. Meanwhile, Amin El Hassan also works for this company. And so I just want to acknowledge that obviously everyone knows Amin, in fact, has the darkest incognito browsing history of anyone at Metal Arc Media.
Wake me up when Harvard does something of note.
Thank you, Amin. We don't need you anymore talking about these things.
This victory lap was presented by Peloton. Find your push. Find your power with Peloton.
Pablo, before you get out of here, Pablo Torre Finds Out is a rapidly ascending podcast. It is getting more and more popular all the time. What do you have that we should be listening to?
Yeah, I think today's episode is our best episode possibly that we've done to date.
Guys, I literally just made a Mario Cristobal interview request.
Yeah, so
like literally. Can we stop?
Please stop that. Please stop. It's just.
Go ahead, Pablo. You were saying, yes.
yes.
No, Amin touching the nipple of a photographed Mario Cristobal is what we should be doing for the audio audience. Yes.
Yeah. Instead, while I'm over here sending a correspondent to a supermax prison in Texas to investigate what fantasy football is like among death row inmates. So this is a real story. I don't want to spoil it. It is about, yes, capital punishment as a system, but it's also about how one actually does continue to watch sports, love sports, talk trash about your favorite teams, root for the Dallas Cowboys when there may not always be a next year. So, Dan, I think it's honestly the best thing we've done so far. And briefly, it started because it turned out there was a database online of the last words of death row inmates in the state of Texas. And a disturbing number of them, their last words were, "How about them Cowboys?" And so we decided to find out why it is that is so, and how one actually does continue to watch the Dallas Cowboys on death row in America. And I genuinely and unironically encourage you to see what we reported. I think it'll change a lot of your minds.
Give me a clip, Lewis, please, from Pablo Torre Finds Out that Pablo was supposed to throw it to, but forgot because he was too busy smelling his own farts.
How did you guys even draft players, though? Or is it all through the window?
Mostly it was week to week. So depending on the matchups, you would make a new lineup. You understand?
Okay.
You know, Tom Brady's playing whoever, so you're starting Tom Brady. And if it's a 2-quarterback league, you know, whoever else it might be, you know, Aaron Rodgers, right? So there's a deadline. You got to turn them in by, you know, Friday at noon. We would slide the stuff out from the cells to the day rooms, and then those guys would get the stuff and give it to another day room, make his way out there with what we call a fishing line, and it's essentially like a long string that he'll slide to the day room and he pull them back in.
I have never felt worse about forgetting to check my lineup. That is what it takes to play fantasy football on death row.
Right, and just enjoying this conversation, one fantasy football player to another, and you sort of get lost in that. You forget where you are, and then there's this gut punch. But what happened to your league?
Slowly but surely, the guys that played, they've just been pushed out of existence. They've been executed. They're gone. You know, and that's just a reality of being on death row. That's a reality of being sentenced to death.
So overproduced with the music, the slow music. What are you kidding me? The death row inmates started dying? What?
Oh, I'm sorry. Production value, I know, is a horrifying concept.
That music,
to the Scorsese's in Miami, right? But we actually, we actually, you know, put thought and effort into how we tell stories as opposed to actually just having a mean rub a nipple.
Really?
Yeah.
Did anyone have the thought like, hey, this might be too sad and it seems like we're celebrating murderers?
We are decidedly not the liberal Joe Rogan.
Yeah, we're fat shaming Mario and we're making fun of death row inmates. Not liberal Joe
I think
Rogan.
Mario looks great, by the way.
I would like to advise and encourage you all, go to freecharlesflores.com. Realize why the Innocence Project took on his case, and realize that somewhere at this company, someone who's doing actual work as opposed to sitting at a table and masturbating literally and figuratively.
Okay, you were
Well,
just
sad music for an
literally.
innocent person on a death row.
Literally.
Yeah, I get that.
Okay, it didn't need the music. It was overproduced, and
You guys have lost the ability.
He was
to
saying something
critique
dramatic. I
what
get it.
good
He's
work
on
is.
death row, and the people around him die. The music doesn't make it any different. It's just, yes, people die on death row. That's kind of why it's called death row.
Stop excusing your own production laziness and pretending that that's a decision you guys make.
Work smart, not hard. Work smart, not
How
hard.
about work at all? You guys are like, that's too much work in that. Yeah,
Jeremy
great.
produced
Good
a song that he
philosophy.
wrote lyrics to 10 minutes into a segment yesterday. He produced a fresh song, The Final Nightgown. You got 10 people that were paying God knows how much to put some syrupy music behind death row. Guy dies on death row.
We're trying to make things that people who don't like what is on screen with me, like naturally, this is not their thing, to know that we're actually making some of the best work in sports media. And sometimes that involves a thing called scoring.
Get him out of here.
Just a little thing called scoring.
Just get
you know,
just get him out
like
of
we
here.
score Edward R. Murrow Awards.
Yes,
But I don't know what I'm doing.
Yes,
I don't know what I'm doing.
He's
I'm just
award-winning
winning all the
Pablo
awards.
Torre.
That's all I got.
But if the end of the story is, he killed 17 people,
Yeah.
I go like,
That's not the
track.
story.
No, please
that is
tell me.
absolutely
Did you,
not the
please,
story.
Please, did you start C.D. Lamb, guy who killed 17 people? Pablo Torre finds out.
You guys sound
award-winning Pablo Torre
ridiculous.
finds out where if you want overproduced music, that's how you produce. That's underproduced right there. It's the final nightgown.
You guys are odious.
That's the sound of Stugotz selling out our autographed coloring books. We are selling out as part of our 20-year celebration around here. We're introducing the Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz's 20th anniversary jersey. It's a weird choice to enter the Christmas holidays selling a sleeveless garment, but here we are.
I mean, 20 years, I have been on fire. The last 20 years have put me in the Hall of Fame. Who would look worse in a tank top, me or you?
Okay, it's sleeveless garmentry that we're selling at LeBatardAF.com. It took us 20 years to make it. It looks just as bad on us as you would imagine. Before we get to some old-fashioned, old guy calls a sports radio station to get stuff off his mind about sports teams, we're going to go to an old-fashioned sports radio call in a second.
Those were the days.
Well, there's still the days in New York because Jerry Seinfeld is calling New York radio stations to make fun of the Yankees and losing. I want to tell you that GenCFB is going to be on here in a couple of minutes where Lucy and Jess go through all the college football things that we have not gone through so far this week. What are you excited about what you're discussing here with Lucy, Jess? Like, what's the reason that people should be listening to this beyond the fact that it is an ascending college football property?
Well, I asked Lucy what she wanted to talk about this week, and she said she didn't have anything she wanted to talk about.
Oh.
So we talked about the playoff. We talked about Miami and Georgia Tech a little bit.
I know Lucy's always good for that.
Did you guys see the mega targeting in the Miami Georgia Tech game where the Georgia Tech player's helmet got twisted off with the face mask and then there was like the targeting hit?
Yeah.
Yeah, Lucy missed that, so I tried to explain it to her, and you'll hear that later in the segment. And then we talked about there's a lot of good games this weekend, especially like my eyes are on the Big 12 right now. That league, I feel like anything can happen over the next 3 weeks in the Big 12, and it's going to have a major implication on which team ends up in the playoff. Is it going to be BYU? Is it going to be Colorado? Is it going to be a mystery third option? There's tons of teams still in it.
Dan, you would agree 12.5 against Utah is a little too much. Now the public's back on Colorado. This is where we eat.
I think if it were at Utah, I would be higher on Utah. That's because that's a tough environment. But it's at Colorado, right?
Kansas is also coming online.
Kansas is very
scary.
interesting. They've lost a lot of one-score games. We will talk about that later. Boom!
Boom!
That was a terrible hit to take.
Should have been 40-yard penalty.
And it also, I learned that a lot of people that watch college football still don't know that you don't have to hit the player in the head or neck for it to count. It's if you lead with the crown of the helmet and make forcible contact. So targeting is still a confusing thing for a lot of people, but this was targeting. It was also a face mask, but I think you can't stack penalties, so it was a 15-yard penalty.
Should have been 45 yards at least.
Yeah, I don't understand why Hurricanes fans in particular don't understand what targeting is. We had Amari Carter on this team. You should know by now.
Let's get to that sound, Chris, of Jerry Seinfeld trolling the sports radio hosts in New York.
Tell me about the pain of the 5th inning. Tell me about that.
Really?
I want to know, what did that
Do
feel
I have to
like
go over this
as
with
a
Jerry
fan?
Seinfeld right now? Really?
Yeah. I
Oh,
want
my
to hear.
God.
I want to hear your pain.
Jerry. That is, I'm not kidding.
What was the worst of the 3 plays for you? Which one was the worst? The Judge play was the worst.
Well, you know,
it's a guy you don't want to see that happen
No.
to that guy. He's
No.
a nice guy. He's a great, obviously a great player, and he's tattooed with that moment
forever. No doubt. A day hasn't gone by yet that I haven't thought about it for a little bit. In the moment,
That makes me feel so good to hear that. I can't tell you.
And I'm glad I'm pleasing you, Jerry. In the moment,
Yeah,
in
your
the
pain
moment,
is my pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Have
so
you watched
enjoy
the
it.
comeback on Netflix?
Amazingly
the Red Sox
enough, it hasn't been at the top of my list. No, I watched Game 7. They have a new documentary out about all different Game 7s, and I watched the Aaron Boone Game 7 to make me feel a little bit better. But no, I haven't watched the debacle that was the 2004. But I got to be honest with you, this hurts more than that.
That means Seinfeld watched it. Seinfeld watched the comeback, guys.
Courtesy of WFAN is that sound.
He asked, I want to know what it's like. I said, it's like the last 40 years of your life, Jerry, rooting for the Mets. Shut up, Mets fan.
Wow, there it is. You've been called out, Jerry Seinfeld, comic icon. Shut up, Mets fan.
That's all he is. When he talks, I want to know what your pain is like. You know what the pain is like? What's the deal with being a fan of a terrible team? How about that?
That sounded, there was somebody else in there at the end that wasn't
Pablo Torre.
Seinfeld. Jessica, we were talking earlier in the show about toughness and whether or not toughness wins. When I associate football toughness with who's going to be tougher at the top, I remember Baltimore and Tennessee playing, Ray Lewis against Eddie George. Baltimore-Pittsburgh. Jay Glazer talks about those facilities and says those are cultures of violence. Cultures of violence. Baltimore and Pittsburgh are regarded as 2 of the toughest teams in the league, even though Baltimore doesn't play any defense. So can you give us an analysis, even though we don't do previews, of Baltimore and Pittsburgh at the top of the AFC playing each other in a giant game? And this is the rarest thing in football, between 2 teams we kind of think are good.
Dan, first of all, 1:00 game on Sunday. Ravens are a 3-point favorite right now on the road. So Lamar Jackson has been injured for a lot of his time in Baltimore when they played against the Steelers, and he's only 1-3 against the Steelers. So, he's missed a bunch of games and lost a few games. And last year, they lost that really weird game against Pittsburgh where there were a ton of drops, and it was just a very, weird and unlucky game for the Ravens. But also the Steelers they play really tough defense, and I think we won the argument that we started at the beginning of the show, talking about the Steelers defense being mentally tough and physically tough. And this is sort of when you talk about AFC North football, which will be featured on Hard Knocks this season, this is the winning argument right here. These are mentally and physically tough teams, although you're right, Ravens defense, I feel like
we flipped Dan on this.
Yeah. It was interesting that we just bypassed the dude that probably would know best. I played there, I played here, we're tougher.
No, the Dolphins deny all those things.
Cool podcast, bro.
GenCFB is next.
I believe that it's week 11, I think. 11 or 12 or 10 in the range. They all sort to flow together, but we're in the double digits in the college football season week count, which is crazy. I think it's 11.
I don't
like it at all.
I think we just did 11. I think we're on 12 now, and I don't like it one bit. But also, Lucy, at the same time, the season's only halfway over because we're going to mid-January now.
We have so much left to do, and this 11 weeks and all the remaining probably 11 weeks or 12 weeks or however many are left is brought to you by Cheez-Its, because we are feeling the cheesiest this season. And I think that's a great way to describe this season. It has been cheesy all around.
Cheesy in a good way? Because I don't...
Yeah, cheesy there's no bad cheesy. Yeah, cheesy is only a compliment.
Were you cheesing when you watched the College Football Playoff Selection Committee show on Tuesday night?
I'm never cheesing when I watch them. Ever. You know why they say cheese when you take a picture? Because you smile when you say it? Cheese? No. No, and they're not the cheesiest. They don't get to smile.
Lucy, when I asked you yesterday what you wanted to talk about this week, you were like, there's not a thought in my head. So now that it's been 24 hours, have any thoughts crossed your head about this college football week at large? Do you want to start with your trip to LSU?
Yeah, we can start with my trip to LSU. Would I say that I have thoughts in my brain right now? That's an awesome question. Jess, have you ever been to Baton Rouge?
No, I've never been to the state of Louisiana.
Yeah, well, you should take the week off after. That's the lesson that I've learned. If you go to Baton Rouge and you go to LSU for the weekend, you need a lot more recovery time than I have given myself. I had a blast. I had a really, really fun time. I think it's maybe the most fun I've had on a trip in a really, really long time. Outside of the game, which sucks. So obviously, blowout across the board. That's the only sort of downside of this trip was like, I still don't necessarily really feel like I've seen a night game at Death Valley because like this game was over the second Alabama drive. Like everyone sort of looked around and was like, yeah, we're cooked. This is done. So I didn't really get the full like night game Death Valley experience, but outside of that, I had so much fun at LSU. The fans are unbelievable. They're so awesome. They're so funny. They're a very weird bunch in just the most delightful way possible. I enjoyed Baton Rouge. I enjoyed my time there. But yeah, the brain cells are gone. Also, they smoke a ton of cigarettes there. So I have felt it. I didn't smoke any. They didn't offer, so I guess that's sort of the bad part of Baton Rouge. No one offered me one. But yeah, it was a really fun trip. But I got to tell you, my body probably is like, let's hold off a year before you go back.
Did you eat anything good while you were there? Any good tailgate food?
Yes, we had some of the best pork I've had in my life. We could probably find some video of it from our off-roading where LSU's big thing is, they cook the opponent or whatever. So you can't cook an elephant. I mean, you can, but it's pretty messed up. I'm sure you could. Don't try it. I don't want to try it. Don't do it. So they had this pork and they cut it up in a way that it was supposed to look like an elephant. And it was delicious. Everything smelled so good there. It was a wonderful, wonderful place. I enjoyed my time there a lot, even with all the Tiger controversy and stuff like that. But yeah, game sucked ass. Game was terrible.
You also got
too much good in one weekend,
which I was very jealous
of. And we did.
So LSU loses to Alabama, but Lucy, LSU still ranked in the top 25 of the college football playoff rankings. One of the more egregious rankings, I think, that I saw on the selection show on Tuesday. Was there anything that really stood out to you that you want to talk about before we do our little Week 11 recap? Because aside from LSU and maybe Miami and maybe SMU, there's not too much that I'm upset about.
No, there's not a ton that's really changed. I think the only thing that I'm kind of upset by, which I don't even know how upset I am by it, is Penn State at 4. When Penn State's not the 4th best team in the country, right? No, I don't.
Yeah.
No.
Well, no, but they're ranking off of resume.
It makes.
Penn State's only lost one game, and it's a better loss than Tennessee's one loss to Arkansas. So I guess that's what they're doing. But their best win is
overall. It's just no. Overall, it's just no. That's not right. So yeah, I didn't have any insane takeaways. Most of the discussion I saw was just all these SEC fans being we're screwed. They're screwing the SEC out of things, which I'm pretty sure was them realizing that Bama would go. Which shut the fuck up. The entire.
What?
Yeah. Oh my God.
SEC fans were saying that?
Go online and just look up college football playoff and go to the Twitter, and every single thing is they're out to get us. Ward Manuel is the Nancy Pelosi of college football.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
It was
there's 8 SEC teams in the top 25.
I know.
Missouri is still ranked.
Crazy.
LSU. Okay, continue.
Yeah.
Tell me. They're not saying this on Blue Sky, by the way.
No. They're on Twitter, just being they're out to get us, and this is not okay. Which is just and I think it's only because the lead of the playoff committee is a Big Ten athletic director. I think they're just very upset about one SEC team in the top 4. The whole thing is just odd. It seems very much an overreaction, especially because if you still look at this right now, with the exception of the automatic bids, there are no teams that will make it into the top 12 from a conference other than the Big Ten and the SEC. So I don't necessarily know if I agree with that. The thing that really stood out to me, which it sucks because that's one of the reasons I don't love these ranking shows that much, because they get you excited for matchups that most likely won't end up happening. That you mean to tell me that the University of Alabama football team is going to have to take a road trip to Bloomington, Indiana in late December for a college football playoff game? That rules so hard.
Yeah, that would be awesome. But yeah, the SEC outrage, I don't understand why
it's
that
stupid.
is, because there's still a bunch of games that are going to be played in the SEC that are going to have huge ramifications for this. So like if Georgia wins against Tennessee, like seems like they're going to be in no matter what else happens. But the Miami thing was, I thought, surprising because they're still slotted as having a bye week. They're still the highest ranked ACC team. I kind of thought like SMU might jump them this week, because if you look at comparing their losses, Miami's loss is worse. It's to Georgia Tech. SMU's is to 9-0 BYU. And then if you compare their common opponents, SMU beat Louisville, Miami beat Louisville. That's Miami's best win. SMU beat Duke by a smaller margin than Miami beat Duke. So I guess maybe that's where they're differing there. But I just was surprised by that. I guess not that surprised. But again, it might not even matter in a week. So I'm not getting too upset about it.
Yeah, it sort of feels like, to me, it's just kind of like the placeholder. And right now, we're under the assumption that Miami is going to win the ACC. This is the playoff, not me. So we're just going to keep them in this spot. They will stay here. And when they lose again, if they lose again, we'll just do a little switcheroo. I don't necessarily think they're coming at anything with logic or reasoning, because that's just not their real vibe. It's just, I like that logo better than the other one. And so, yeah, Miami, I kind of felt like should have dropped more, especially because that's a bad loss. But also at the same time, like, it's one of the reasons I like the playoff, because like you aren't necessarily screwed with a horrible loss like you would have been in years past. But then sometimes you want to see teams get screwed by a horrible loss. You're like, dang, what do you mean?
It's nice when it benefits your team, but when it happens to someone else, you're like, this is stupid and I hate this format. And I think every team will experience that at some point with the new college football playoff format. Like Tennessee right now is sitting pretty nice hosting a playoff game because their bad loss was their only loss of the season, and they have a chance to get even higher this weekend if they beat Georgia. So yeah, it's just like whatever. Lucy, I just can't get too upset about it at the moment. I will get upset about it in like 3 or 4 weeks.
Oh, yeah.
So do you want to talk about any other playoff stuff before we move on to week 11?
I don't necessarily know if there's anything that sticks out to me. The thing that, like, my opinion on the playoff rankings, I'm going to get mad about the first one, and I'm going to get mad about the last one. But all the middle ones in between, I'm like, You've already, once you set that first precedent, once you make that first rankings, everything is based off of that. Everything will remain based off that. It's honestly kind of sneaky like the preseason bowl. Everything remains based off that for the rest of the year. So, like, I'm not going to get too worked up or upset over anything right now. That's why it's important to talk to a therapist on a weekly basis. You learn to control your emotions about the college football playoff, specifically, although she's not a big college football fan, so it's hard for her to keep up, but she does her best.
She's like, I don't understand why BYU isn't higher if they're undefeated. And you're like, it doesn't matter, Susan. It's
really don't.
It's fine.
You can tell that I'm out of brain cells today. I hear it in my voice and everything. And if you're going to be mean to me about that, internet, guess what? I don't even have enough brain cells to think about it.
Okay, good opportunity to say mean things to Lucy right now if you're a YouTube commenter. Okay, let's move on to the big games from this past weekend. Miami at Georgia Tech. First loss of Miami season. There was an amazing photo of a Georgia Tech fan taunting a Miami fan, pointing at him and laughing at him, and it was very funny. This was a big win for Georgia Tech at home. Brent Key, he's got Mario's number, Lucy. They did it again. This one was more, I would say, less fluky than the last one. This didn't require like a catastrophic coaching error for Georgia Tech to win. This was a good like ball control, eliminate Miami offensive possessions type game. Georgia Tech ran the ball so well, even with two of their like best running backs out for most of this game. Jamal Haynes went out after he had a big run in the first quarter. So what did you think of this big win from Georgia Tech? And does this change your opinion of Miami at all as one of the best teams in college football?
I never really thought of them as one of the best teams in college football. I thought they were a very talented team. I don't think they're a bad team by any means, but like there's this immediate reaction to this Georgia Tech game. Like every other game that Miami's played this season hasn't followed this same weird, wonky format. They've just been able to pull it out in the end. Virginia Tech could have very easily been a loss with that weird call at the end. Duke was kicking their butt for a little bit. Like Miami's just been messing around all season. The thing with this game is I do sort of wish, just for narrative's purpose, that Georgia Tech hadn't been as like kind of dominant as they were, because I would have liked the Mario Cristobal mess this up sort of discussion, which he did a little bit. It just ended up not mattering.
The timeout was really bad.
It was just so stupid. I just wish it had meant more, because then it would have been funnier at the time. But yeah, Miami it's one of those things again where like the ACC has an automatic bids. With the exception of SMU and Miami, things are not looking good right now, and things aren't even necessarily looking particularly good with Miami. So, like, it sucks, but you're still very much in this entire process, but yeah, I don't know. I would not be surprised if Miami lost again, because every single week, if they lost, I would not have been surprised. I wasn't shocked they lost to Georgia Tech. Like, I wasn't.
Well, I think so. Right now, Miami has the tiebreaker over Clemson. Miami and SMU both beat Louisville, and Clemson lost to Louisville. So right now, if the season ended today, one of Taylor's favorite games, Miami would be in the ACC championship game against SMU. But I did want to point out something, which is that Miami's defense in F+, which combines Brian Fremeau's FEI efficiency rating and Bill Connolly's S&P Plus rating. So in F+, Miami on defense has a rank of 51, Lucy. 51 on defense. To find another team with a defensive rating that low, you have to scroll all the way down to the number 31 team in F+, which is North Carolina, which has the 58th best defense in F+ defensive rating. So that is a massive issue if you're a team trying to A, win regular season games, but B, make a run in the playoffs, because they're going to be playing against a lot better offenses after they get through this stretch of bye week, Wake Forest and Syracuse. So that is a huge problem for Miami, but their offense, of course, number one right now in F+, which is pretty good because they got Cam Ward and Xavier Restrepo, who have helped bail out the defense in a lot of situations. But yeah, didn't happen in this one. There was also a mega targeting penalty in this game. Did you see this penalty, Lucy?
There were 700 targeting calls in this game. We were out tailgating, and it looked like every single time I pulled up the game on my phone, I was like, oh, another targeting review. So I'm not crazy familiar. I remember seeing the one that was called and also the 10 other that worked, but not.
It was crazy.
Not as well.
There was like a face mask, and then the Miami player hit the guy in the chest and his helmet flew off. It was just like horrible. And then there was also
missed that one.
Georgia Tech linebacker with a neck roll, which was awesome. He ended up getting hurt later in the game. But anyways, this was a really fun game. Great noon game last weekend. Loved it. And yeah, I'm bummed you missed it, Lucy, because it was a lot of fun to watch. But that brings us to another big game from last weekend, Georgia and Ole Miss. Lucy, it looked disgusting at this game. It looked horrible. It was similar to the game you were at, just like nasty, rainy, and disgusting and gross.
We got that. So that weather moved over. So like 3:00 Eastern time, it was in Oxford, and by like 9 in, I guess Oxford is Central Time, whatever. 3:00 Oxford, 9:00 Baton Rouge. So we faced, every time we looked up on the screen, I was like, I can't see anything. Oh my God, it looks so awful there. Yeah. Georgia's got a quarterback problem. I think we kind of knew that. Carson Beck's not entirely to blame for the loss of this game. I think Georgia's got a ton of issues on offense. Their offensive line isn't great. They don't have receivers that can support Carson Beck. But like, you're also the starting quarterback at Georgia. You got to figure it out. You got to make it work. Yeah, this is really interesting going into this season, because I kind of always expected Ole Miss to sort of do what they do every year, sneak their way into the top 10 and then just fumble it out of there and just end up in the Peach. I guess the Peach Bowl is now a playoff game, but go to a really respectable bowl, but never sort of take that next step.
Right.
And winning this game was what did that for Ole Miss and what did that for Lane Kiffin.
Yeah, but I think they fumble. I mean, assuming they went out, they had their big horrible fumble early enough in the season that I think people have already forgotten about it. So that is great for them. But yeah, Jackson Dart, I think we said last week he'd have to have a really good game for Mississippi to win, and he played well. But the Mississippi backup quarterback had to come in for a drive, Austin Simmons, and he also played really, really well in this game because Jackson Dart injured his ankle, so he had to sit out for a little bit. So that was a really great offensive performance. But the real reason I think that they won this game was obviously the defense. The defense was just in Georgia's face the entire game. 5 sacks, 9 tackles for loss, 4 forced fumbles. It was like we said, disgusting out there. And then Beck threw another interception. And the players for Mississippi that are making a lot of these plays, especially with the pass rush, are transfer players that are making a huge impact later in the season. Kirby Smart also said after the game, Layne outcoached him, which I thought was interesting. But it was a good game, and I think it's a shame that the biggest controversy to come out of this game is that a Georgia player saw his friends on the Mississippi sideline after the game rushing the field and then started jumping up and down and smiling, and everyone was like, "That's illegal. You should be able to do that."
Yeah. Look, Kirby Smart has given that player more heat than some other players on his staff who have done more serious things. That's all I'm going to say. Seems like I wish we would react to the more serious things happening in the Georgia football program the way we reacted to this kid seeing his best friend from high school. Oh my God, call the cops. Someone was happy for 5 minutes.
He was like, that was a stupid idiot. I was like, okay, whoa. There's also, Lucy, an amazing punt in this game. Probably the best play of the game. Georgia's punter had a really nice punt inside the 1 yard line. But yeah, now Georgia plays Tennessee, which we'll get to in a minute. But first, I think we should talk about Alabama, LSU. I don't actually know if there's that much we need to talk about. Jalen Milroe is just
bad.
Jalen Milroe.
The game is bad.
The game was bad. LSU, Brian Kelly afterwards was like, people are going to watch this game and wonder what we worked on for the last 2 weeks because our defense still couldn't stop the design QB run game / mobile quarterback game. And he was right. That's exactly what everyone was thinking.
I mean, you guys spent so much time worrying about getting a Tiger on that field, and you had you didn't even use the Tiger appropriately. You should have just opened the cage. After the third Jalen Milroe, just 70-yard run or something, open the cage, let the Tiger out, then let it all be handled. Yeah, it was just a horrible, awful game. It was over as soon as it began. LSU, I think their defensive coordinator is the highest paid DC in the country. Gotta probably reevaluate that. Just awful across the board. It sucked. But once again, loved my time in Baton Rouge.
Yeah, and I love when Jalen Milroe has a game like that, 185 rushing yards, 4 touchdowns, including that 72-yard scoring run. And Garrett Nussmeier had a brutal game. He's had 6 turnovers in the last 2 games, Lucy. That is not great.
Those are Carson Beck numbers.
It's not good. So before we move on to this weekend's game. Did you say this weekend or next weekend? The upcoming weekend's games. BYU almost lost to Utah. And we already talked about the athletic director getting really pissed and saying that the game was stolen from them. But there was some bad clock management in this game, Lucy, and it came down to a 44-yard game-winning field goal with 4 seconds left for BYU to remain undefeated.
They have had some, I think BYU deserves, to be where they are. You're undefeated. I don't care how you win games, being undefeated and incredibly impressive. They have just had some fluky stuff this year. I look at the Utah game and I look at the Oklahoma State game. Things have just gone their way. Dare I say, God on their side.
That is you could be right. The offense, F+, same rating we were just talking about, combining FEI and S&P+, 36 right now. And that's a team that is ranked in the top, top 6 in the college football playoff? Yeah, so that's interesting. They have a tough schedule coming up too. The Big 12 is really weird. We'll get to that. But do you think they're going to stay undefeated until the Big 12 championship game?
I know they're at Arizona State in 2 weeks. Arizona State has done some like really incredible things with their program this year and the way that they've turned around. And it probably was one of the worst situations inherited by a new head coach with Kenny Dillingham, just with all the NCAA violations. Everybody's gone. It was just really messy there. But Arizona State's played incredibly well this year. It's definitely like the feeling of a trap game. BYU has just been, they have gotten really lucky this year. They've had a lot of close wins. They deserve all of it, but I do see them potentially slipping against Arizona State in 2 weeks. I believe they also have Kansas this weekend and then Houston in 2 weeks. Houston has started to figure things out, and Kansas coming off a huge win against Iowa State.
Yeah, Kansas is one of those teams that their record is pretty bad, but they've also lost a ton of one-score games and been a little unlucky. And the last few weeks have seemed to sort of figure it out a little bit more offensively. So that, I think, is going to be a really interesting game this weekend. We are getting nutty with Hampton Farms Peanuts, the official snack nut of the Tailgate, Lucy, and they're sponsoring our Week 12 preview. So we already talked about this exciting BYU-Kansas game, but there is also another exciting SEC game, which I think we've said every single week this year, Georgia and Tennessee. That is going to be the big game of the weekend. I think Georgia needs to win this game. And if they do, there is going to be a lot of two-loss teams in the SEC, and everyone's going to be really confused and angry about it.
Yeah, this game matters a lot more for Georgia than I think it does Tennessee. One, because Georgia needs to figure things out. Something that was really weird that I didn't realize going into this game, this is Georgia's first home game in over a month. This is Georgia's first time hosting a ranked team in over a year. It has been a really long time since Athens has had a big game. So I think the vibes are going to be really high. I think Georgia wins. Also, Nico is in concussion protocol right now. It seems like he's going to play.
Yeah, they said he practiced on Monday, but he went out of the game pretty early this past weekend with a quote-unquote upper body injury that they then said was a concussion. So that's
technically upper body.
Yeah,
your head's at the top.
True.
That's the most upper.
I like that this game is in Athens, Lucy. Georgia, just a great home atmosphere. I think they're going to win this game. I think they're going to win this game, and I think it's going to make the college football playoff rankings an even bigger mess than it already has been.
And yeah, the thing with Tennessee is this is not the normal. Tennessee is a very good team, but their offense really struggles, and I kind of think Georgia's defense will make things. They'll go Georgia's way. Fingers crossed. I don't know why I really want Georgia to win this one. I think it's just because I'm going to be there. I don't know.
Oh, you are? I didn't know that.
I am.
Fun.
Yes, we are going to be there, and we're going to be in the stands. So I want everyone to be happy. I want the vibes to be good around me. Unless I sit in a Tennessee section, and in that case, I'll root for Tennessee.
Yeah, there was also Dylan Sampson looked like he got banged up against Mississippi State this past weekend. So hopefully he's healthy, because obviously like the Tennessee offense is not the offense we were picturing when the year started. They've sort of like been more of like a power run game offense, and they've been more successful running the ball. So I think that if he's healthy and if Nico's healthy, Georgia is probably going to keep it a low scoring game and like sort of just beast it out at the end. So we'll see about that one. But we also got some other really good games, Lucy. We got Clemson and Pitt, which is like kind of low-key kind of interesting. Tulane and Navy, which has massive implications in the American Athletic Conference. We have Utah and Colorado, which every Big 12 team is sort of in the mix right now because anything can happen over these last 3 weeks. And then we have LSU and Florida, which if DJ Lagway is healthy, that could be interesting. That could be a really weird game.
Yeah, it's the thing with DJ Lagway, I'm so happy he's healthy. The way he went down in that Georgia game, I was like, he'll never play the game of football again.
Yeah, it looked terrible.
It looked terrible. And then when they said he's questionable for Texas, I was like, what are you talking about? Kind of unbelievably demoralizing loss for Florida against Texas last week. I really cannot talk. It's been a day. They kind of need this one. This is weird vibes. I wouldn't be shocked to see if something weird happened. It's in Gainesville. I've also got my eye on Missouri, South Carolina. I think South Carolina's going to win, though.
Yeah, I think Missouri has been terrible against like every good offense they've played, and South Carolina statistically has been a pretty good offense, even though they've had a ton of injuries and stuff. And we know their defense is good, and their defense has won them a bunch of games. But like barring Shane Beamer doing something really weird in the first quarter of this game, I think South Carolina will win that game, and Missouri will finally exit the top 25 rankings. Sorry, Eli Drinkwitz. I know that you were very happy to put yourself back in the conversation after that Oklahoma win, but I'm ready to kick you right back out.
crazy. Yeah, I think South Carolina wins. I feel pretty good about that one. It's like a weird weekend where there aren't the total normal marquee matchups we were used to. Like, it's pretty much just Georgia, Tennessee. But the last time this happened, it was a blood week. So I'm not saying it's going to be a blood week, but blood week is always on the table. Every week could be a blood week, but I'm not saying that.
Well, we will be here to talk about whatever the week, blood or non-blood week. We will be here to talk about it next week. Lucy, have fun in Georgia. Enjoy
Thank
Athens.
you. I'm a little nervous because the LSU, the brain cells are gone. I feel like Athens might also lead me to that dead space.
Be the final nail in the coffin.
We're going to Harvard, Yale next week. I kind of wish we had switched the two. It would have been a nice little breather.
All right, well, have fun. And if you like the show, subscribe, follow, send us a message. Tell us what you want us to talk about. We're always here.
For those of you who do not want politics with your sports, I understand, and this will be easy for you to skip in the post game. But I am worried about a number of different things that are happening in America at the moment, and I'd like to get a little more informed on what is happening with mass deportation, because it has felt, this cry to get people out of this country has felt so deeply un-American to me as to be just generally appalling and make me feel like my principles run counter to the principles that are most popular in this country. And so it's bothered me for a while as the son of exiles on a show that has a lot of parents who are immigrants in a city where it's built atop the idea that people are from somewhere else and come and make a life here. I wanted to get more informed on my fears and everything I see happening during an uncertain time. Jose Antonio Vargas is a sensible person, and beyond that, he's a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist, Emmy-nominated filmmaker, a Tony-nominated producer, also an undocumented immigrant. Came to the United States from the Philippines in 1993 when he was 12 years old, and he is the author of the bestseller Dear America, Notes of an Undocumented Citizen, and the forthcoming book, White is Not a Country. Jose, thank you for joining us. I look forward to getting more informed here on what is happening. When I'm introducing you this way, and I am both appalled and fearful about everything that's happening in this country, you do what with that assessment?
Well, I'm glad that you're doing what you're doing, because I actually think this is a moment for people to speak up at whatever venue they can. Like, as you said, this is a sports show, and some people may not need to hear politics in a sports show, but the reality is politics is literally everywhere around us. It's a matter of, how awake you are and aware you want to be. And to be honest, we can't afford for people not to be aware. Like, I live in California, a third of the state. I'm coming to you from Berkeley, California right now, where people fight over kale. And in California, a third of all of our residents are immigrant, right? So what's going to happen? And I think what you're seeing now, Governor Newsom, I feel lucky and blessed to live in California. Governor Newsom, in a couple of weeks, is going to have a special session with the legislature to prepare for what is California going to do, right? And I think that's what you're going to see happen now. And I have to say, this is in the past week or so, all the messages I've been getting on Instagram and on email from people, at least probably 10 people who are thinking of leaving, like undocumented immigrants, a couple of them with DACA. I don't know if your audience is familiar with DACA. This is the Obama program that gave legal status and work permits to about 500,000, 600,000 immigrants who were born here as kids, and then, born here as kids, were brought here illegally as children, and then went through the school like I did. I didn't qualify for that. I was 3 months too old. But I've heard from about 9 DACA recipients that are waiting for their fate to be sealed and are considering leaving, self-deporting. And maybe this is the intention, right? Scare people. And I'll say to you that 3 of them are nurses. Doesn't this country need more nurses and medical support for an aging country? So I don't know. By the way, these are people from Asia, from Africa. You forget 1 out of 10 Black people in this country is a Black immigrant. This is not only a border Mexico issue. the third largest undocumented population in this country are coming from India. As a journalist, by the way, it's been so frustrating that my colleagues, I used to be a political reporter. I covered the Obama campaign for the Washington Post. It's been so frustrating how I don't think anybody has asked J.D. Vance's partner, Usha Vance, who is a first-generation American whose parents are immigrants from India. Like, what does she think that the third largest undocumented population are from India who overstayed their visas? What are we going to do with all those undocumented Indian people? Should we make sure, by the way, 700,000 people. Are there more than 700,000 people in Montana? That's a lot of people, right?
Gesundheit.
Bless you. I mean, that we don't have a sneeze button. We have a cough button, but 2 of your sneezes got out on the air. What are your worst case fears here, Jose? Like what is, without being a fear monger, what are you really living with today?
Well, thank you, by the way, for saying the fear monger part, because we've had enough fear mongering, right? I am a journalist. I'm constitutionally built like a journalist, which means I want facts. I want reality. I want like what's in front of me. And for me, the worst case scenario is we're going to see families ripped apart in real time. That's what we're going to see. We are going to see, because again, how complex this issue is you have parents who are undocumented, perhaps, and then you have kids who are U.S.-born U.S. citizens, right? Because of the 14th Amendment, thanks to Black Americans, who fought to make sure that we had the 14th Amendment, right? Thanks to that, those children of undocumented immigrants are U.S. citizens, right? So you're going to see a scenario where they could be ripped apart from each other. This whole denaturalization. Have you heard about this denaturalization plan that's part of the equation?
Good times.
So these are people like my grandmother. My grandmother immigrated here from the Philippines in 1984. She naturalized 1994. And so what does that mean? Does that mean that because my grandmother doesn't speak perfect English, I do. I speak perfect English enough for the both of us. Does that mean that her citizenship is on the line? Because she may not be what you consider, quote unquote, an American because of her accent and because she, I don't know, has a different culture than what people consider to be, quote unquote, mainstream. So denaturalization, heartbreak of watching families ripped apart in real time. And for me, the real question around the economy, I don't know, most people don't know this. Most states in this country don't allow undocumented people to drive. They need us to work, but we can't legally drive in most of the states. Texas, 1.6 million undocumented, about 1.6 million undocumented people in Texas. Have you heard of like a subway or a train system or a bus system in Houston, Dallas, or Austin? They don't exist. How do those 1.6 million undocumented Texans get around? How can half of the construction industry in the state of Texas is based on undocumented labor? Then what happens? Right? What happens to these businesses?
Well, you're asking these questions, but it seems to me obvious that one of the things that will happen if this is executed is the prices of everything is going to go up.
The prices of everything, yes.
And so when you start talking about rebuilding or fixing the economy and mass deportation, I don't understand how those things can coexist, because if you're already voting because eggs are too expensive, I don't think people have any earthly idea how expensive produce is about to get if you start sending out people out of the country who are the only people who will do those jobs, because generally speaking, most people don't see those jobs as a way out of their circumstances because they're terrible jobs. They're terrible jobs that most people would not want.
Well, here, now, wait a second now. Now we're talking factually. Now we're trying to, and to be honest, when it comes to this issue, facts have completely gone out the window, right? The numbers don't matter, right? Logic doesn't matter. Common sense doesn't matter. And mind you, I'm undocumented. I cannot vote. I lived in this country for 31 years. I pay a lot. I should be a Republican and paid so much taxes, right? I've never voted, right? And so the reality to me is both of these parties have been responsible for the mess that we're in, what Clinton did, what Obama did. But right now, Trump has made all of that worse, right? This is a nonpartisan issue. This should not be a Democrat-Republican issue. This should be what makes sense, right?
and what's actually in the interest of our country. And by the way, I was so moved that you opened up about your own family history, right? Because that's the question that I ask people. You know, I've been at Define American. Please check us out, defineamerican.com. Since I started this organization 13 years ago, I've been traveling the country nonstop asking this question. And, you know, when I go to Ohio or Wisconsin or Alabama, I was in Alabama before the election. I'm finishing reporting on a book, and I meet white people. So before you became white, what were you? How did you get here? How did your family get here? Your grandparents? What laws were in place? Do you understand that all you have to do is open a history book to know that your legality is really dependent on what year you came, what laws were in place, and the circumstances? So the humility that is required to say, wait a second, why did these people come? Why did my great-grandparents came? How do you connect the dots? And then when people say the country is overpopulated, I don't know. I've been to South Dakota. I've been to Montana. I've been to Wyoming, right? I know what it's going to require in an aging economy like ours. So many boomers right now need medical support and help. Who is going to take care of them?
Jose, the thing that I've noticed that's the difference in the rhetoric between the previous Trump administration and the current Trump campaign seems to be that before it was a focus on making sure that people, quote unquote, illegal immigrants didn't get into the country. Now it's about taking people who are already living here and kicking them out. That's a swift change in rhetoric between the last time around and this one. And now they're openly talking about detention camps or, you know, ripping people from their homes if they're in blue states that are trying to protect those undocumented immigrants. How do you see that sort of shift in rhetoric changing not just what the result might be here, but also the fear-mongering we spoke about and changing the behavior of undocumented people within this country maybe deciding to leave?
So before I answer that question, let me actually just do some grounding here. So I am here illegally, right? I'm here without authorization from the government. I can get picked up at any time if they decide to do that. But I, as a person, am not illegal because people can't be illegal, right? So you can call it undocumented, you can call it unauthorized, you can call it whatever you want to call it. But again, I am here illegally. I'm not trying to be, quote unquote, politically correct. I'm just naming the facts, right? But I think part of the rhetoric is we have been so brainwashed to think of people who are here without documentation as criminals, right? That we have labeled an entire group of people. It never fails to amaze me, by the way, because, you know, my name is Jose Antonio Vargas. It doesn't get any more Latino than that. I look like this. By the way, it's called Filipino. There's like 5 million of us in the country, just FYI, right? And so, but it never ceases to amaze me when people use, I was in Birmingham, I was in Selma, I was in Montgomery. A few people recognized me because of what I do. And somebody said, oh, yeah, you're the illegal Mexican guy. And I'm like, no, wait, what? Like, we have been so used to it's calling people Mexican illegals. I have noticed this specifically in the South. And my mind is just blown by that. And 35 million Mexicans in this country, millions of whom have been here before there was a United States of America. Mexicans in this country right now are what Germans were in the 19th century, the dominant ethnic group, 35 million of them. And we have brandished them as quote unquote illegal. So there's that. But that's part of the question you're asking. I think now this administration has gotten specific, right? And I think this is Stephen Miller doing his homework. By the way, I got to hand it to Stephen Miller. He has done his homework. And I don't know how that guy, I think he grew up in Santa Monica in LA. I don't know what happened, but he has done his homework. He's going to have a big part in the administration, working with the border SAR, and they're going to go layer by layer to say, wait a second, you know, those people that we just apprehended at the border, that dad who has been here for 40 years and hasn't adjusted status, even though his kids are U.S. citizens, all of those now is in play. And I think you're going to see kind of an onion peeling of the damage that's going to happen. My question is this: what are we in the media going to do about it? Are we going to watch this and fall? And again, I used to be a Washington Post reporter, right? Are we going to fall in this objectivity thing where there's two equal sides? Are we going to make this a Republican versus Democrat thing? Or are we going to ask ourselves, what the hell are we watching? And is this going to happen in my watch?
Jose,
that's my question.
Jose, I cannot have you so indignant that you don't even acknowledge that you've been asked that serious question by a Pop-Tart.
Oh, well, I just had one this morning.
Didn't even notice.
It was a very serious question asked by a Pop-Tart, and I understand your level of indignance. I do, but you can't. I thought when you pointed at the camera, you were going to say, and I'll ask you this, Pop-Tart. I thought you were going to reference at some point that the Pop-Tart had asked you a question. Because people tune us out when we get too serious and indignant on this stuff. You know this, right? When we start to get strident on behalf of just basic human rights that I thought we were all in agreement upon in America. That's the part that's one of the things that's so confusing to me. Like, really? We want to be Russia now. Okay, we want to be Russia. We want to actually be as white as Russia.
Well, wait a second, though. But that's how we got into this mess to begin with. We've gotten to this mess because we have been totally unserious as a country. All we want is to be distracted, right? That's what we want to be. We don't want to know what really happened. I mean, it's fascinating being in Alabama the days before the election, right? And being reminded of not only the history of this country, but the present of this country, right? Black people in this country who built this country as enslaved people are still fighting for their equal rights, right? And we still don't know the full facts of what happened in the Civil War and the reconstruction of the country. And by the way, I am so used to being asked questions every time that it doesn't matter if it's a Pop-Tart or a dim sum. I will answer any question from anybody. Right? I was like, they invited me to go to Alaska. I'll go to Alaska. Where's Sarah Palin? Let's talk. There is not a single person that I will not talk to about this, right? My only thing is we have to do it with actual facts. We have to know what we are dealing with. Not talking points, like facts.
Well, Jose, I'm curious. You mentioned several times that you're undocumented. Do you not, as someone who's very outspoken and has a big platform, have you ever been afraid of reprisal or any sort of kind of consequences or repercussions?
Oh, yeah. Well, dude, like when I did this, so mind you, no one forced me to come out because usually people like me stay under the radar, right? Like you pay us under the table, you wink at us, that kind of thing. So I decided to do this very publicly because in some ways I was in a position where, look, I don't know why I never got caught. Whenever I filled out that form, an employment job at the Washington Post, at the San Francisco Chronicle, I just never got caught. And I was turning 30. The DREAM Act was, in Congress being debated. And I was watching all these young undocumented activists risk their lives. And there I was in my New York apartment, kind of at the height of my career. I just profiled Mark Zuckerberg for the New Yorker. I was like, and I felt really like, wait a second, I'm a part of something here. And here I am succeeding while people can't even pay for their tuition fee because they're undocumented. So I came out. I publicly said, I'm here. I did this during the Obama administration, right? That year, I think President Obama was deporting 400,000 people that year. And I raised my hand, come get me. And dude, nobody got me. Of course, Bill O'Reilly called. I did Bill O'Reilly. I did all those shows, right? Nobody called. And then I was making a documentary. It's called Documented. I called ICE myself. I was like, hey, I haven't heard from you. Like, what? Are you going to deport me? Why? Why not? Again, I'm a journalist. I'm trying to follow this story, which happens to be mine. And they said, we don't comment on your case. That was literally, this was for a Time Magazine cover story. I was like, I'm writing a cover story for Time Magazine. I need a comment from my government. Are you going to deport me? Why? Why not? And the comment of the government was no comment. And then I did get arrested. I've been arrested and detained once in Texas in 2014. I don't know if you remember 10 years ago when all those Central American kids were walking across the border through Rio. So I went to Texas. I don't know if you've been to the Rio Grande area. So I got there. The activists invited me, the young activists in the area in the Rio Grande invited me to do an event with them, to kind of connect the dots between these Central American kids who were walking and us who came here as children. So I got there, and then the moment I got there, I move so fast sometimes I don't tell people where I'm going. I get there, my lawyer texts me, Moni texts me, goes, hey, you're at the border. How are you going to get out? I'm like, what are you talking about? I have a flight tomorrow at Delta. I got to go to LA. Jose, you're at the border. Like, when you go through TSA, there's going to be a Border Patrol agent next to the TSA agent. And I was like, I didn't know that. So then I said, I'm at the border, I'm here. And then they ended up arresting me. I was detained for like 8 hours and then they released me.
Your story.
So that's what's happened so far.
You've devoted yourself to this, right? This is your cause.
Oh,
it is your life identity, right? You have dedicated yourself to the pursuit of making sure that people understand how important this one principle is.
Well, I just say, because, identity politics comes out a lot. So I'm undocumented, I'm gay, and I'm Filipino. But I would say that the biggest identity I have is I'm a journalist. I've been a journalist since I was 17 years old. I'm 43 now. And being a journalist for me means I ask hard questions. I look around and I go, wait a second, what don't I know? Who's not in the room? Who am I not hearing from? So that's the identity that I probably wear the most. And to your point, asking question how they define American in a country where there's 46 million people, in a country that was founded on the freedom of movement, I think that is going to be my life's work, right? I got to say, though, because it's so easy to call people activists. I'm an activist, I'm an advocate. My question is, why aren't you? Why aren't people activists and advocates? Why is it that a group of people have to be activists and advocates to remind people what's unequal and what's inequitable? I just want to live my life. I have books to write. I have plays I want to do. Do you know what I mean? And yet, every day I have to justify my existence in this country. Talk about taxation without representation. I've been thinking these past few days, maybe I should gather all my undocumented, people that I know and be like, wait a second, should we talk to the government about we paid all these taxes and we're not represented? And then I remind myself, they don't even think of us as human beings. How can we talk about taxation without representation?
You've never felt like you're losing like this, though, right? You've never felt like wherever your activism resides, wherever your passions reside here, it's never felt like you're losing the way that it feels like you're losing today, correct?
Oh, yeah. This is the worst. This is the culmination of every lie. I still haven't, to be honest, I still haven't had time to really reflect on Vice President Harris and how she talked about immigration and this issue, knowing that for Democrats, it's quote unquote a losing issue.
They were bad. They were bad.
They were awful.
And Obama was bad on this, and Biden was bad on it. They were all bad on it.
Well, I have to say again, this is why we have to look at the nuance, right? President Biden issued TPS, temporary protected status, right, for groups of people, and I'm going to wonder what that is. They have tried to do, because look, thankfully there are people, I don't want to name them, there are people at the White House who know what good looks like on this, who knows what fair looks like on this. But you know what they lose to? They lose to the narrative all the time. We live in Trump's narrative on immigration. We live in Trump and Stephen Miller's narrative and Fox News. What would Fox News do without us? We're like the leading character on Fox News. And I used to go on Fox News, by the way, a lot. I would go there, control my eyebrows, and try to not fall apart, in the middle of an interview. It was important to go on Fox News, because then I would hear from people who were like, wait, what are you talking about? You've been here since you were 12. What do you mean you pay taxes? So then I'd get invited to the Nebraska, Chamber of Commerce meeting, and then I'd go. So their audience is really important. But from a programming standpoint, I think it's listed somewhere that Fox News is entertainment, right? We're part of the reality television show that is America for Fox News. And illegal aliens are the leading character. Don't they owe us some residuals? Shouldn't we get something off that?
Let me play for you something here. According to exit polls, more than 45% of Latino voters chose Trump. It's a 14% increase. It's a record for a Republican candidate. Here's one Latino Trump supporter explaining his vote to CNN.
If they let in hundreds or thousands of people who already have criminal records, if deporting them creates some mass deportation, I'm all for it.
But what if rounded up in all of that are people who work on a farm? They're doing the jobs that Americans don't want to do. Does that worry you?
That wouldn't be fair. Of course, they need to make sure that they don't throw away, they don't kick out, they don't deport people that are family oriented.
What's happening there? What's the disconnect?
What's the disconnect? Well, first of all, one thing that is important, I think this is, again, common sense. We have to know who's coming to this country. We should know. We don't right now. We have a system in which you actually don't know who's showing up. Like, I still don't know what E-Verify really was, right? But that narrative of we don't want to let criminals in, when in reality, undocumented people who come here commit way less crimes than native-born citizens. And think about the psychology of that, by the way. When you come here, you want to like go under the radar. You don't want to do anything that would like rattle that, right? But now, one other point that he made is this is, again, the dissonance, right? Well, we want to make sure that, farmers, Alabama, again, so much of the South, here in the Central Valley in California, where I'm at, this is where I think we have so focused on immigrants as labor. Think about that. Whenever we talk about immigrants, the context is high-skilled labor, low-skilled labor, right? The labor of immigrants is what we want. We don't want the people. Let me repeat. We need and want the labor, but we don't want the people. Now, what does that really mean?
It means that I will continue to be afraid about what the future of this country looks like. Jose, thank you for being on with us. I will tell the people he is the author of the bestseller, Dear America, Notes of an Undocumented Citizen. Appreciate the knowledge, appreciate the facts, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.